What is going on, everybody? It is episode 744 of Pop Culture Crisis. My name is Brett, and I am here once again with my co-host. Introduce yourself, please.
Hi, Crisis Actors. It's Mary. We're both feeling a little bit chaotic today,
Maybe
but
just
that's
a little
fine.
bit.
Kellen is joining us.
Hello, everybody.
How you doing, buddy?
It's been a while. My name is Kellen. I'm a producer and editor here at Timcast. We do many different things. It's been a while since I've been on the show.
He also slandered me in the chat earlier by saying
we saw you
that
talking shit in the chat.
I wasn't a fan of that. Kellen's over here just talking shit in the chat.
I do no such thing, dude. You should have seen it yesterday, man. Brett.
So
what
What are you talking about? What?
So what was it that actually happened?
Well, Colonel Kurtz's poor eye. The rumor is around town that she's walking around with an eye patch today.
Is that what it is?
So,
Brett, there's some kind of eye curse because of what happened to Phil.
Yeah.
Oh,
he had a little bit of an eye issue.
I didn't even think about that.
I mean, maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's the IRL studio. Maybe it's not us. Maybe it's you.
It's the IRL studio.
Yeah. That's good. That's good.
Okay. What's up, guys?
But despite the fact that Kellen is being a slanderous punk in the chat, he is here, and we got a bunch of stuff to get into today. It's going to be a lot of fun. So what are we talking about? Well, first things first, the celebrities are reacting. Hollywood is reacting to the United Healthcare assassin, Luigi Mangione. I guess technically it's alleged assassin.
What do you mean alleged?
He hasn't.
What do you mean alleged?
He hasn't been proven guilty in a court of law yet.
Okay.
Alleged.
Fine.
So alleged assassin, and we're going to talk about the Hollywood reaction to that because we've got quite a few stories here.
Well, they do think it's the guy now. Apparently, they match fingerprints. So.
I mean, yeah.
So
again, innocent until proven
this is
guilty.
All a CIA psyop anyway. So we're gonna get into it. We're gonna talk about Lily Phillips, who she had a bit of a breakdown after her viral 100 men in 24 hours video, which we talked about the other day.
Yeah, we didn't know this at the time, but there was actually a YouTuber documenting the whole thing for his channel, and I did watch that documentary. It is not for the faint of heart, but yeah,
so
lots of
it's
dark
on YouTube
stuff.
Though, right?
It is.
Well,
It is on YouTube.
I mean, heartbreaking content doesn't need to be something that can't be on YouTube.
I don't mean it as it's explicit. It's not.
You.
It's
I
not
understand.
explicit.
Emotionally
but,
damaging.
It's like a horror movie where
Interesting.
they show don't tell, but it's like she didn't tell the truth. She's just showing it in her reaction to the whole thing.
So we're going to talk about that. We are also going to talk about the fact that even James Bond stars, women Bond girls from the franchise, are saying they don't want a female James Bond. The most recent is Gemma Arterton. I don't even know how to pronounce it. It's Arterton. So she was Strawberry Fields in Quantum of Solace, which is...
Arterton.
There's like two people in the world who actually enjoyed that movie. I'm one of them. But she came out and said, you know what? Maybe we need to reject modernity and embrace traditionalism sometimes. So we'll have a little bit of debate about it because this is also coming up in the vein of Captain America Brave New World because people talk about the concept of passing the mantle to someone and whether that's a good idea at all. So we're going to do that. But remember, guys, before we get started, hit the like button on this video and subscribe to this channel if you have not subscribed here yet already. And remember to please share this video, these live streams, the segments with your friends, your family, your loved ones, people you like, people you hate, people you have, maybe you have a mortal enemy. I always bring that up. I don't know anybody who actually has a mortal enemy, but if you do, share it with them as well because the more people that you share these videos with, the faster channels like this can grow. It is the best way to help us. And please remember that we don't just release segments at 8 and 12 anymore. We are also putting one out each day at 6 p.m. and then again at 8 p.m. So Eastern Standard Time.
Yes.
So if you missed the show or you missed the show from a previous day, a lot of those segments do go up after the fact. You can check it there.
This might be an East Coast bias, but like if someone doesn't specify what time zone, you just assume it's Eastern, right?
Really?
I'm pretty sure that's what people do.
Might just be where you're from. Like,
I don't know.
When I lived in Minnesota, I actually know. When I lived in Minnesota, I would never assume they meant Central.
Right.
Really?
So I think, East Coast time is
no,
the
if
one
they said
true time.
8-7, then if they say 8-7 Central, that's what, when I was in Minnesota growing up, everything was at this time, and then they would list Central as the second time and then mention it. So
I
East
only
Coast
had to
still
think
got-
about this when I was watching Disney Channel, and there
Yeah.
would be a new episode of like Sweet Life, and they say it's coming on at 8-7 Central. I had no idea what that meant.
When I was a kid, I used to
How
think...
is a kid supposed to know what
you're like,
that
I don't
means?
freaking know what that means.
I didn't know about Pacific time, and so I thought they time said specific time.
Oh.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got a bunch of other stuff to get into. You guys ready?
I think I'm
Let's
ready.
do it.
Kellen,
Yeah.
he's ready. All right. Well, let's get into this first. So one of the big stories that came out this year was that the top 10 movies at the box office in 2024 are all sequels, and it doesn't look any better for 2025 because the top 10 most anticipated movies of 2025 are in fact all sequel, reboot, slop.
This is a list put together by Fandango, and they claim that it's picked out by the fans.
Yes.
So it's credible.
Do you guys
This is
just-
what people are looking
You just
forward
want to go
to.
through the list and like give our thoughts.
They're like lining up at the trough. Like they're so excited
Yeah.
to just snort up all of the slop
That's
that
me.
Hollywood has for them.
That's me. I'll take the slop.
So number one, I mean, I kind of understand that one because for me, it's like, okay, did Marvel really fix itself? Because it's been so disastrous
not
for
fixed
how many
itself.
years?
No.
Well, I think that's why this one's anticipated.
It's not
right,
anticipated.
for number one.
Nobody's
Captain
anti-
America Brave
I've
New
seen a lot
Worlds.
of I've seen a lot of chatter about this one.
Nobody wants to see this movie.
But like, if this one flops,
It
and
will
it's
flop.
terrible.
Wait, when is the release for Brave New World?
It's in February. It's during Black History Month, of course.
So,
Oh, is that on purpose?
They did that with Black Panther, so yeah.
Oh
probably.
gosh,
but
that's
do you
so
think more
cringy.
people are just like, okay, the next few movies don't matter, just give me Doom or whatever?
No, look. Okay, maybe I'm being a bit hyperbolic.
Doom.
I might be a bit biased because I've been watching a lot of dissections of this movie and all of the problems with it. I just watched a video yesterday where Valiant Renegade was proven right by the likes of Forbes, saying that look, the budget for this movie is not $200 million. It's well over $300 million, and that was before the reshoots that happened. Oh no, I'm sorry. That was for Snow White. I'm sorry. Caught myself before
fact
anybody
checked in
before
real
anybody
time.
can call me wrong. But the point is that nobody's really interested in this movie because it's gone through endless reshoots. It was a product of a time before Trump won in 2024. It's going to be cobbled together to try and save face. They ruined it by revealing Red Hulk early rather than saving it for in the movie. That was a lot of the problems. One of the problems, if you guys remember when Batman vs. Superman was being promoted, they randomly showed Doomsday in the second trailer and then not again until the movie, and everyone's like, why would you do that? Same stuff. I don't think that there's a lot of anticipation for this movie. When people think of Captain America, they think of Steve Rogers. People would ask you why you wouldn't just make a Sam Wilson movie about Falcon, which is a far more interesting character than just taking the mantle of Captain America. They're asking, why is he able to stop a punch from Red Hulk? He doesn't have superpowers. He should have been turned into dust when that happened. So, look, I don't think that just because Deadpool and Wolverine did well, that means that there's excitement. If anything, somebody pointed out that they actually had to play on the nostalgia of the Fox X-Men movies for that film, when back in the day, Fox X-Men was supposed to be the redheaded stepchild of Marvel, who was the bigger property during phase
Those
2
movies were
and 3.
awesome.
I love like Bryan Singer's X-Men. I love X-Men 1 and 2 specifically.
I remember they did a roadmap because they were going to do the X-Men Origins for a few of the characters, and I think we only got Wolverine and who's the other one? The Game of Thrones girl played her. Sophie Turner. I can't remember what the character was, but we only got 2 of them. They were supposed to do it for Cyclops.
Yeah.
Phoenix or something.
Yeah.
So those movies were really good, and that's why I was glad. With
Nobody liked the Phoenix movie.
No, they didn't.
No.
Maybe that's why
they tried it
stopped.
twice. They tried it in an X-Men movie, and they tried to do its own one, and nobody liked that.
Well, because they gave Wolverine a love story, which was like kind of drove that whole movie.
I don't believe that Captain. If I was to be honest, I would say that I would imagine that Avatar. Would
Out
be
of
higher
all
on
of
this.
I
these,
can't stand-
Avatar: Fire and Ash is going to do the best in the
Yes.
box
I
office.
couldn't
And
finish the second
Am
one.
I
dude.
supposed to believe that, given all the damage that DC has done to their brand, am I still supposed to believe that The Accountant 2 is more highly anticipated than a new live-action
Yes.
Superman movie? Look, I'm more excited about The Accountant 2, but I don't think I represent the general public. I just love Ben Affleck, and I love that first movie.
Well, they're mad that Henry Cavill got replaced.
I
I know you're excited for Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning.
The Final Reckoning. Yeah, not Dead Reckoning 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Dead Reckoning was so bad, and
Still
I
like
stand
it.
by that.
Still like it.
Jurassic World Rebirth. Like, what are we doing with
So,
these titles?
Jurassic
This
World-
is insane.
Jurassic World Rebirth will have to live and die on Scarlett Johansson's star power.
Wait, did they get rid of Chris Pratt?
Yeah, well, I got rid of it. It's a new trilogy.
Again?
Yes.
This is
Oh.
this is a time in culture that's going to be looked back upon with so much ridicule and disdain, and it's all deserved. How, like, what do we have to show for this decade?
No, watch
Rizzler.
again. I keep
Literally.
mentioning, I keep mentioning this guy, but watch this video from a year ago from Greg Owen on postmodernism in Hollywood, and he really does break down how, you know, the rise of postmodernism and the rise of relativism in Hollywood storytelling is proof that there are no new stories to tell because they don't believe that objectively good art even exists.
Well, the goalposts have been, because of the success of the early Marvel movies, the goalposts have shifted so far that if you're not doing Marvel numbers, they're like, why even do this?
Well, this is why last year in 2023, I said the reason why some of those movies were so successful is 4 to 6 of the biggest box office hits last year only cost $100 million to make, which is a lot of money, but it's a smaller hurdle to clear than when you spend $200 to $300 million and then you have to make $1 billion just to get anywhere near even.
I can't remember which. A famous actor said this, that, you know, the actual Marvel characters are bigger than the stars that play them.
Yes.
Right? When people see I can't even think of his name, Captain America, they see Captain America, not the actor.
I would actually argue that Robert Downey Jr. was probably bigger than Iron Man
not
at the time.
No, not at the time, because
but when it started, I
that was
think
his comeback, right?
No, I mean, like, after the fact. I don't think that Iron Man was as big of a character until now. Now Iron Man is as mainstream as it gets. But Captain America, the Hulk.
Sure. The reason I bring that up is that they have the opportunity. They don't, these, like, the salaries in these movies are so inflated, you know, and the star power is always insane, but they don't need to do that. You can take an up and coming actor or actress and give them a good character with a good script, and you'll make them a star, you know?
I think I see some people saying, I see one that's not on this list is Thunderbolts, and a lot of people are saying that perhaps Thunderbolts would be the sleeper hit of these trilogies next year. Remember, there were supposed to be 4 Marvel movies next year. There were supposed to be Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four, Blade, and Captain America: Brave New World. Blade is not happening. That's not coming out next year. It's not even shooting right now. It's still going through production hell. But, you know, out of all of those movies, I think that Fantastic Four has the most to lose, given the fact that it's a relaunch of a beloved franchise that they aren't going to be able to get right, in my opinion.
They're incorporating that into the MCU now, though, right?
Yeah, but I'm saying, but the point is like they have the most to lose if it doesn't go well, if it doesn't do well. If Captain America 4 fails, it's just their attempt at race swapping Captain America for a little used version of the character in the comics.
Is this the actual title of Ballerina? From the world of John Wick, Ballerina?
They put that in the, like, very little letters. Like, they did that for the Continental as well.
I think that, that you can get away with just John Wick: Ballerina.
Is anyone going to care about Ballerina?
I am. Are you kidding me?
The expectations.
This is how you should do it if you want to continue your franchise.
The expectations on Ballerina are going to be less than any of these superhero franchises because John Wick was never expected to make the same amount of money as a superhero movie on its opening weekend.
John Wick also fills that void that Fast and Furious fills, right? You go and see the movie and you just see punching, action, crazy stunts for 2 hours.
Did you see her cringy video of her, like, hitting the TV with the
Anna de Armas?
I haven't seen that.
It was the worst thing.
No,
I've
I
ever
did
seen.
not see that.
She holds a sledgehammer. Looks like she can barely pick it up, and she, like, hits a TV. And, like, the top comment when I posted was like, it was like a tube TV. They're like, that would have been great for, like, 8-bit gaming. Why would you do that? And I said I would rather have just seen another trailer. I don't need to see her, like, struggle to pick up a hammer.
Was that an official, like, promo?
It was from Discussing Film, I believe. But to be fair, Avatar and Wicked are probably going to do the biggest numbers.
I just realized that we're going to have another Wicked press tour. Next year. Like, it's just never ending.
Has this already been filmed? They're just
that's already done. So here's a more extensive list. It says the most anticipated new performances on the big screen: Scarlett Johansson in Jurassic World Rebirth. Pedro Pascal in the Fantastic Four movie, and De Armas.
Just call it Jurassic World Reboot. Just call it what it is.
Brad Pitt in F1. I thought they halted production on F1, but I could be wrong about that. And Nicholas Hoult in Superman.
Nicholas Hoult.
He's playing Lex Luthor.
Okay.
Dude, I'm pretty stoked for this Ana de Armas movie, dude.
I mean, out of all of them, I'm probably the most interested in that and The Accountant too.
Yeah, the Accountant 2 will be good.
which is sad because it's all slop. But
I would be most interested to see 28 years later, actually.
and yeah, and then, we didn't even get to that one. So and 28 years later, they just released the first trailer and the first picture from it, and it looks great.
Yeah, what do you think about the trailer? Seen rave reviews.
I mean, it's
everyone loves it.
great editing as far as actual trailer editing. It's great. I laugh because people still bring up the gimmick of them filming it on an iPhone 15. I encourage everyone to go look at the camera attachments that are put on this iPhone 15.
Yeah, like why did they even bother?
It's
at that
very
point?
much a gimmick in a lot of ways.
I bet Apple gave him a buttload of money.
Oh yeah, probably.
Just to promote the iPhone.
Just
But
say,
what
yeah.
it is they're trying to recapture the magic of what happened in the original film, which was filmed on an old Canon XL1, or even something like the Blair Witch Project, which was made for like like $200,000 and made like all the money.
Embarrassing confession, I actually couldn't finish 28 Days Later. I stopped watching it like 20 minutes in because it was too scary.
Really?
I mean, that means the director.
That's a good thing.
That means Danny Boyle did his job.
Or that just means I'm soft.
Both can be true.
How old were you?
This was like earlier this year.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it means the director did his job.
I can't deal with the suspense.
It was good.
But notice what wasn't on that list. Snow White wasn't on that list.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's on here for most anticipated family movies, but it's under Zootopia, How to Train Your Dragon, and Wicked Part 2. It's fourth.
Oh, but it beat Lilo and
Zootopia-
Stitch?
It beat Lilo and Stitch.
No.
Zootopia and How to Train Your Dragon are probably going to do better than
Oh,
Snow
yeah,
White.
absolutely.
I think you guys are
Yeah.
sleeping on Lilo and Stitch
No,
here.
it's gonna a lot of people
Lilo
really,
and
really
Stitch will
like
be
that
more successful
first.
than Snow White.
Yeah, a lot of people
All of
really
these
like that
I think it's
first
going to
image.
be bigger than How to Train Your Dragon as well.
Yeah.
So all of this says to me is like, look, and I understand the argument, guys, why everybody wants something new, but nobody comes out for it. I hate to tell you that, but the sequels are what actually make the money for them. Very rarely, like I said, all
What
of the
happened
10.
to people? Like, what happened to people?
It's too expensive to risk it on some. Look, if you have to spend the same amount of money to go see big budget slop, which at the very least might have some like action that passively satisfies you, even if the story is garbage, then you're not gonna take the risk on some smaller film that you don't know. Like nobody went to see Fly Me to the Moon. Because nobody's going to take a risk. They're like, I like Channing Tatum, I guess. I didn't like if Scarlett Johansson's such a big star, why didn't they promote this movie? So no one's going to take the risk to go do it. Also, it's all correlates heavily with what is actually spent on the marketing for these films, and all of the marketing goes to the big budget films and none of it goes to the small ones.
Are people just too jaded and they're not willing to watch these movies? Because
They'll
think
wait for
about
streaming.
like what mindset did someone have in the 80s or 90s where they were like, I'm going to go to the movie theater. I'll figure out what's playing when I get there.
Yeah, that
and
was a
then I'll
thing.
buy the ticket in person and
I've
I'll
done
walk
that.
in there and it's not comfortable.
Yeah. I
And the
remember doing
food
that.
sucks. And it's a good movie. It actually turns out that most of the time it was a good movie.
That was a thing back in the day. You didn't go to this theater looking for a specific movie, or if you did and it was sold out, you just went to a different movie.
Yeah.
Like that's nobody would do that now.
Well, you also have to realize that, like, okay, so like, just take the movie theaters that are near us. Like, they're kind of standalone in their own like complex, in their own. They have their own massive parking lot. They're not really incorporated with the rest of the town square anymore. So if you wanted to go to it's a whole mission to go
Yeah.
specifically to the movie theater. It's
like,
not like
there's
there's a
a-
restaurant next door and be like, oh, we'll pop by, see what's playing.
There's one out here that's by a mall. That's in a mall.
Yeah, but even that, people don't go to malls anymore.
See,
so-
I disagree with that. I've been to a couple of malls recently. They've granted it's the holidays. They've both been very busy.
Yeah, but it is the holidays, and it's documented that, in person anything is waning now. So
So
we're just in a stuck culture. It's a dead culture.
are there any of these movies that you even have a mild interest in? Just 28 Days Later?
28 years later,
Years later?
and maybe The Accountant 2.
Yeah.
Other than that, I couldn't care less.
You should watch the first Accountant movie. I mean, it's not your genre, not really.
I would give it a
But
try.
it might be worth
Yeah.
giving it a shot. So
I heard they cast Patrick Bateman.
yeah, which is really funny because I was just telling you yesterday how I just learned that Tom Cruise was the inspiration for that character.
Yeah,
Which makes perfect sense.
so unfortunate.
Yep. All right,
Anyway.
let's move on then, shall we?
Drew Barrymore has a problem. She can't stop touching people inappropriately. And she tends to make her guests uncomfortable. She has this habit of grabbing people, caressing people while live on air on her show. And I assume most of her guests are too polite to say anything. Martha Stewart was not. She was the only one who stood up to her and told her to back off on air, which she deserved.
Here, let's watch this clip here.
What makes you soft and gooey, though?
What makes me?
That's such a like. Why is she biting her finger? Already, it's like so bad.
Yeah, what
Treatment.
soft and gooey treatment
Yes.
when you're treated like a lady.
Nice. It's nice.
She's petting her.
Someone comes in and
She's
the wrong
petting
gender.
Martha
I
Stewart.
know.
She literally,
Okay.
Martha Stewart literally pushed Drew Barrymore back on the couch. Wait, how did Drew Barrymore apologize in the?
No, she said, "I know."
Wait.
Although
She's like laying on.
the way it's
Is that
going
a
with
boy
men,
dog?
though,
Is that a
Martha,
boy
I'm
dog?
not so sure anymore. He's dressed inspired.
Okay,
So Drew Barrymore is hitting on Martha Stewart.
I think
it's
this
on
is,
air.
I think it's drugs.
that's I was gonna say, like, this is the need to feel tactile feels like drugs to me.
Drew Barrymore is on drugs.
She's on the Xannies.
I bet she's got one of them hipster Hollywood gurus that's got like this little concoction for her, so she's just buzzing all the time. That's my prediction.
She's taking the uppers and the downers at the same time. A little bit of speedball right before you go to work, and she's like,
Well, no, you know what this reminds me of? Honestly, just a lot more of a put together version of is with Kamala, right? So
Right.
if she's already got anxiety and is taking medication for that, and maybe she has one glass of wine, that's going to make her act like this.
Well, since you mentioned Kamala, we should resurrect that extremely cringy clip of Drew Barrymore caressing Kamala.
"Here we go."
Oh, jeez.
I've been thinking that we really all need a tremendous hug in the world right now.
Yeah.
But in our country, we need you to be Mamala of the country.
I don't get it. How
I
did she
can't
not win,
imagine
guys?
Why she didn't win?
Yeah.
Maybe she's microdosing MDMA. Maybe that's what it is.
There, you know, it's funny you say that because there's an episode of Family Guy where Peter takes MDMA and he can't stop like feeling fuzzy coats and stuff while he's DJing.
That's what I'm saying.
And I'm
Might
like,
be
oh,
MDMA.
it's just like this.
She's like, wow, her skin feels so.
Wow, it's like 5 gum.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Wow.
Look, somebody said drinking. Her words seem pretty, like, however gooey her words are. She
What
at least-
makes you gooey?
What
And
makes-
then this where she bites her finger.
Yeah.
What
You don't
is
do that?
It's tactile. I'm telling you, it feels to me, again, I can't know. I'm not accusing her of anything, but she seems a little fried.
This all happened ever since she got roasted for frolicking in the rain. Do you guys
Yeah,
remember that?
I remember that.
She was somewhat normal, a little bit under the radar, and then one bad TikTok of her frolic. And everyone knows you're not supposed to frolic in the rain. That's a big no-no.
No,
You
you're-
can't do that.
If you're a white woman, you are not allowed to
No.
frolic in the rain.
I mean, why? What?
How dare
what
you be
earth?
so carefree?
In what world do you think that you have the ability to frolic?
It's a
It makes me
white
mad,
privilege.
Mary. It makes me really
Frolicking in the rain is a white privilege, obviously. Well,
Also-
Drew Barrymore just had Cynthia Erivo on her show. And obviously on the Wicked press tour, Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo have been very touchy-feely with each other.
Yes.
To the point where it makes viewers uncomfortable. They don't really understand if this is some kind of lesbianic
Is that a side effect of Ozempic?
situation. Maybe. They need warmth. They need to huddle together
I've
for
heard-
warmth because they're both on Ozempic.
I've heard some.
It's also a product of a space where there are no male interviewers because
Right.
touchy-feely male interviewer has a totally different
I don't think that
context.
Jimmy Fallon would be caressing the hand of any female guest on his show, or any guest
Look
on
at
his
Louis
show.
C.K.
Ever.
He got a little bit touchy-feely, and then they canceled him.
Well, no, the problem with Louis C.K. is that he was actually blocking the door while
Wait,
not touching them.
I thought that the blocking the door thing was.
Well, at least
was
one
disproved.
person said that he was blocking the door. But Drew Barrymore has been warned to back off of her guests after touchy interviews. She hopes that people will become, quote, more comfortable with physical touch after sparking mixed reactions with her intimate interviews.
Dude, you can't do that. You just spent 3 years during the COVID pandemic telling everyone they have to get 6 feet apart. It doesn't work like that, right?
Maybe that's what it is. She's the guy making up for lost time.
Like, but no, like jokes aside, there's a whole generation that grew up with this, and now it's like that's their worldview. Like, do not stand close to me. Like,
in the
it's
post
weird.
Me Too era, are you really gonna risk it?
I mean, think about old Gen Alpha and young Gen Z, right? There was Me Too they went through, so you can't hit on women anymore. You can't show affection. And then there's a global pandemic, so you can't even get near anyone, right? Drew Barrymore, I mean, maybe that's not your audience, but...
I see that she has a predominantly female audience, so she cultivates this faux sense of intimacy on her show where she's sitting on the couch with her guest very uncomfortably close, and she's petting her dog, who is also on the show.
Why is her dog there?
Her dog is always on the show. She has an emotional support animal on the show. If you need to pet something, pet the dog.
It's
I'm
not like
sorry, but like all of this, we can make fun of all you want. Whatever producer came up with this understands the audience so well. Like, this is gold for them.
So it says, in a conversation with Wicked star Cynthia Erivo, Drew Barrymore asked her if it's true that her co-star Ariana Grande is as touchy as she is. They frequently held hands during interviews for the musical. Drew Barrymore said, "I'm so touchy. People have to warn me. They're like, back off a little bit. I'm single. I'm not dating anyone. I don't have that in my life. But I don't know how I would ever hold back from holding hands and hugging and snuggling."
I heard Harvey Weinstein said the same thing.
I was just thinking, maybe she should have gone to those classes that Tiger Woods went to.
So her excuse is that she's single and
ready to snuggle. She's single and ready to snuggle.
So she gets an excuse to like touch people on her show. We have a 20 from Therev295. I love that the 28 years later trailer didn't really spoil anything in the film's plot wise. It's a good old fashioned 90s era movie trailer. I'm shooketh that Mary was scared of the original movie though.
That means it's a good movie.
I think it just means that I can't handle suspense.
Listen, if this is supposed to be a horror...
Imagine Drew Barrymore, like, watching this movie. She's like...
No, but if
everyone
this is
by the
supposed to be a
wrist.
horror, thriller, apocalypse movie, I'm glad to know it's making people uncomfortable. Like, shouldn't that be the goal?
Accomplishing its goal.
Yeah, so...
I mean, that's the problem. Drew Barrymore is neither of those things, and she's still making people uncomfortable.
Cynthia Erivo clearly didn't have an issue with this, though.
She's like, why isn't she touching me? Like, this is like the day before Drew Barrymore got the notice about how she can't touch people anymore. Now a person's going to come to be interviewed, and she's not going to touch them. They're going to feel offended.
Well, it says she and Barrymore held hands during their conversation about physical intimacy. And Cynthia Erivo said, "I'm the welcoming Capricorn that's like, I love you. We can touch." She also argued that people are too afraid of physical connection because they assume it can only be romantic. How we communicate sometimes is by physical touch. That's sometimes how Ariana Grande and I communicate.
It really just seems like she's a hippie.
And Drew Barrymore added, "If we could all be more comfortable with physical touch, I would like that world."
Wait, wasn't there like...
You and you alone,
Did you
Drew.
see that thing on Twitter going around where it was like, I think Josie reposted, it was like, it's like, we need to normalize dudes cuddling. And she was like, dudes, do you cuddle with the bros or is it gay?
It's definitely
It's
gay. I don't think that's a normal thing for dudes
I
to
think,
do.
like, if you're on Mount Everest and there's a tragic accident with your hiking expedition, and the only way to survive is to share warmth, that's like the one exception that dudes can cuddle. Other than that, if it's not for your survival, you shouldn't be doing it.
I don't think that's considered cuddling. I think that's huddling together for warmth so you don't die.
I mean, call it
Yeah.
what you want it, but I'm just saying.
Call
like,
it what you want.
Like, I think that's the only
so
exception.
like you're like literally
Nah.
like holding on to
Nah.
someone for dear life and you're shaking. You're like, gay.
even if it's a life or death situation, bros are not going to be snuggling.
Sorry, bro. Guess you're just gonna have to die.
Brett will be like responsible for the whole group's tragic accident because he's like, guys, no, I don't do that stuff.
Like, sorry, guys. Like, it's like, I guess you're gonna have to die.
Yeah. The only other time that Drew Barrymore has done this and kind of got called out was last year when she interviewed Oprah Winfrey. Oprah audibly gasped when they sat close to one another, and someone commented, "Drew does not have any personal space and I'm uncomfortable." And there was also that clip of her forcing The Rock to carry her
What if it's
on
not,
air
What if it's not
to
the touching?
pick her up in a fireman's carry.
Yeah.
What if it's not
I
the
forgot about
touching?
that one.
That was insane.
I forgot about that one.
What if she just smells bad?
Drew Barrymore?
And that's what it is. When she gets real close, it's not the touching and the shoulder pats. It's the stench.
Maybe.
Could be. Well, there was like a video.
There's like also dog hair all over the couch.
Oh, what if that's it?
Because the
I'm
dog
telling
is
you
everywhere.
right now, the dude, like whoever came up with the idea for her to have the pet on stage is just
Dude, listen,
genius.
if
her audience has to love that shit.
I mean, I could see it. Like if you guys had like a little chihuahua that had like a plate on its
that's like-
back with a
that looks
bottle of
like a-
tequila that would run in, and it's like party time. The dog is here. You know,
That
that'd
was
be cool.
just like a golden retriever who's just hanging out all the time. So she has her dog on the show. If you need to pet something, wouldn't it be the dog and not your guest?
You would think.
Like, boundaries.
Maybe she couldn't find the dog. She's like, "Where's that dog?" Oh well.
Yep.
And if this is what she's doing on camera, I can't imagine the way she's behaving off camera.
But it really does just seem like she's a hippie, and she's like all about peace and love and just taking it. Like I expect to see this type of woman at like a music festival selling me like dream catchers.
There are definitely
know?
rumors about Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo secretly being in a relationship.
Why?
Is it giving you those vibes?
No, I
not
think
me.
Ariana Grande looks. I don't know what's going on. Hope she's okay, but she does not look healthy. From like the
Yeah.
press tour I've seen, Cynthia
neither-
just seems insufferable. Like she only cares about herself. Ariana just doesn't seem like she's in a good place.
That came up on the show yesterday. Well, I think that you're right. The Ozempic theory is sort of adding up for me. They're both so skinny that they have no body warmth, so they have to hold hands during their interviews to keep warm.
Well, then they should love going on Drew Barrymore.
Yeah, they would love that.
All right, so let's move on. Let's talk about Tinder trends.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Tinder just released their yearly report of the most popular dating trends on their app, and it's called Year in Swipe. They exposed a lot of the most insane dating trends that have taken over for the past year, and also their own predictions for what's up to, like, for 2025. It doesn't seem like it's going to be getting any better. So I guess we'll just go through the list. The first one is loud looking.
You'll have to explain to everybody what the hell that is.
Daters are no longer willing to settle for ambiguity or mixed singles.
Singles
Or
or
sorry,
signals?
mixed signals.
I mean, shouldn't that have been the normal, like...
Guys have been saying this for a while. Like
Like,
I
what
wish the
they're
woman would just tell me what
seeking-
she wants.
They're seeking connections that align with their values and offer real, meaningful interactions. This trend is reshaping dating into a more purposeful and intentional experience. So they're taking charge of what they want. The confusing thing is a lot of these trends contradict each other. So
Well, not every trend is for everybody.
there were others that were totally non-committal, such as code names. When you're juggling a dating roster and there are so many people you're dating at once that you have to assign nicknames to each person to keep things straight.
Now I'm imagining like a truly sociopathic girl is like, she's got her roster, and then when she wants to blow it all up, she puts them all in one group chat.
Yeah. I mean, at that point, just don't save them into your phone. And another one is called stack dating, where you line up multiple dates for a single day to streamline your love life and get extra mileage out of your outfit.
I said before the show, I said, nothing about this should ever be so pragmatic. It's like you've just accepted that there's no magic even possible.
Dude, I forget someone explained the problem with Tinder very well. Just online dating in general. It's the grass is always greener. Knowing, like, so with stack dating, this is the problem. You go on your first date, you're never going to fully commit to that date knowing you've got
Yes.
2 more after that.
Yeah.
So you are only hurting yourself. You have no idea, like, you're not actually putting your best foot forward because you're saving yourself for all these potential suitors.
Right.
And
And
it's-
you're also not leaving the door open for the date to go anywhere else
Yeah.
in the day.
Yeah.
You're like, sorry, this was
you
great, but I
can't-
actually got to go.
You can't go to a second location because you've got something coming up on the schedule. You've got the
Well, yeah.
breakfast, lunch, and dinner date.
Like, one of the best parts of something like that would be like, it goes so well, you want to stay together and
Right.
go do more stuff, right? That's
You're like,
the spontaneity. of it.
I got
That's- yeah.
I got a therapy appointment. Like so you have to get
yeah.
an escape route.
Yeah.
you're building that into the way you date.
So the first trend that you read, I actually kind of like, because men have been complaining about this about women. They're like, hey, they're way too ambiguous. They won't just tell me what they want. They won't tell me how they feel. So if this is a trend, I think we're going in the right direction. The rest of the trends you read, I'm like, oh, they're just justifying like 304 culture.
Right.
Like,
well, I mean, it's a lot of what you tell yourself versus the way you actually act in real life. I don't think that women en masse are going to start actually voicing what they want, because that's not something that women do by nature. Ambiguity is actually a strength if you use it to your advantage. But the most worrying thing, the most worrying dating trend of the past year is that witchcraft is being used.
I was shocked by the percentages you gave me on this.
Yeah, witchcraft is one of the biggest dating trends of the past year. Astrology, this says 43% of singles surveyed say that astrological predictions would likely influence how they date in 2025.
Did they survey a witch coven? Like 43% of who? That's an insane number.
43%, and that's got to be like most of the women responding.
why is this? Just because like the lack of religion, the lack
sure.
of any spiritual
But it gets
upbringing?
worse. Another trend is love potioning.
That just sounds like you're gonna GHB someone.
Yeah.
Like that just sounds like you're saying that you're gonna roofie someone.
Sounds like it. But here's the truth. Love potioning is a serious attempt to win someone over by using spells, potions, or elixirs. 17% of singles say that they plan to use crystals for love and attraction to help their dating life.
What does that mean? Like, what does using crystals mean?
I'm not a crystal chick, so I don't know how all of this stuff works.
This reminds me of the meme where it's like, bro will do everything but get a job. That's what this sounds like. You'll do the love potions. You'll turn to witchcraft rather than just be a normal person.
And thirdly, 16% of singles say that they plan to get a tarot card reading to help their dating life.
So it's so like you go by. There's so on the way into like town where the studio is, there's like a psychic reader, but like, you know, it's like at like a house. I'm like, how does that stay in business, right? Like I imagine
But you would be surprised.
I was like, but at the same time, apparently it has stayed in business, because there was also one where I lived in West St. Paul in Minnesota, right on Robert Street. There's like a lot of these houses that are zoned for both business and living. So like a lot of them were like hairdressers. Like a lady owns the house, so she's got the hairdresser on the first floor. And in that area, there was 2 separate psychics. And I would walk by them like, who's going there?
But really, you would be surprised at
Like,
the amount of business they get, because it's becoming more and more mainstream.
It's so annoying.
Witchcraft is becoming more and more mainstream ever since the pandemic and witch talk became a thing. So I am not surprised that witchcraft is becoming more and more prevalent in the dating scene. The problem with it is that you're literally trying to control and brainwash people into liking you. Like, that's actually what you're trying to do. You must not believe in yourself as someone, you know, anyone would want to date organically. If you're using spells to trick them into liking you, you must not think you're very likable.
So can somebody explain to me the crystals? I would like to know.
Do we have any crystal users in the chat? And you can explain how this works.
Like, not crystal meth, right? I'm assuming it's not crystal meth.
No.
Because again, if you give them the crystal meth, you're drugging them. That's a no-no. You can't do that.
No love potions with
No
crystal.
love potions with the crystals or the crystal meth.
Some of the social media related ones were big red flags. This says loud breakups is a new trend. So you know how you can like soft launch your relationship by posting a photo of you and the person you're dating where they're kind of obscured, or you can hard launch a relationship by just posting a normal photo of the both of you.
This is so formulaic. What
But
happened
it's
to
like-
going with the flow?
When you are thinking about launching a relationship on social media, you really think you're that important. Like, you're not Kim Kardashian. No one cares who you're dating.
The relationship's not the priority at that point.
Yeah.
Your presence on social media becomes a priority.
Loud breakups. Hard launching breakups is in. Newly single folks are announcing their splits loud and proud on social media. That sounds really toxic.
What's the meme? Like, there's like the meme trend. It's like when she deletes all her pictures of her boyfriend.
That would be a soft breakup.
I've actually seen some of these posts that you're referencing, and I think they're overanalyzing what's actually happening. I think the shame, people are kind of like getting over the shame of like, oh, you know, that guy just got dumped, right? People are kind of like, no, I'm gonna wear it on my sleeve. It's okay. I'll be okay. I think they're looking way too deep into that one.
Or
can't imagine...
assume that no one is paying that much attention to you.
That was what I say. I can't imagining for a second that anyone would care who I was dating.
Cares.
No, here's what it is though. Like I think for, especially in this influencer culture, if a guy gets dumped, that's his signal to the world that he's available again. So all these like online suitors and stuff, that's what he's advertising himself.
It's like slide into my DMs.
Basically,
there's also
wouldn't it be the other way around? Wouldn't it be the girl?
Yeah,
both
exactly.
are doing it.
Dating
I've seen it from
diaries,
both.
sharing and oversharing the highs and lows of modern dating on social media. This is when you go on the date and you start off with your get ready with me. You're putting on your makeup and your outfit for the date. You film that. Then once you're on the date, you go in the bathroom and film yourself in the mirror in the bathroom and talk about that person while the date is still going on.
That's insane.
And then you go back and then you go home and you give a date review to your followers.
I'm just thinking of the poor guy where the food arrives that he wants to eat, but it's getting cold.
And she's in the bathroom filming herself talking about him and his icks. Like,
damn, I'm really hungry. Where is this girl at? Like,
no wonder people don't care. No wonder people are checking out.
Oh, self-care soulmates. When you and your connection both prioritize self-care and embrace your mental health journeys to show up as better partners. 31% of singles say that they prioritize self-care to stay energized and excited about dating.
That's bullshit, dude. No.
So focusing more on yourself in order to focus on other people.
Dude, if they were serious, they'd go to the gym.
There's
they
too
wouldn't
much
be eating
noise
junk.
and too much narcissism for any of it to actually be successful.
Self-care is not the same thing as self-improvement.
Well, here's the white pill. Like, here's the silver lining with it all, because like this is like a certain percentage of the population that is growing, but there's still a lot of normal people who are just cleaning up right now. Because if you are the person that's just going out to the mall, Brett, right, or you go into the gym, you're cleaning up because there's so many people that have gone insane and they're doing, doing these stupid.
Because the bar is in hell. It's so easy to outshine.
Seriously,
I'm picturing like the girls in the bathroom giving her like mid-date review, the guys in the bathroom giving his mid-date review.
Guys don't do this,
and then they come back and the girl's like, "You did that? That's an ick."
That's the thing, though. Guys don't do shit like that.
No, it's freaking weird.
Yeah,
I mean, it's weird when women do it, but somehow mildly less weird because it's very much a female trait.
So is this like main character syndrome?
Yes, it
definitely.
is.
There's
Absolutely.
also a new take on the bed rotting trend that Gen Z has been super into lately. It's called bed marinating.
Mary had to
God.
re-explain this one to me. I completely forgot.
Yeah, so
about
to explain
rotting.
for context, bed rotting is when you just lay in your bed for hours doom scrolling, and that's considered a hobby now. Bed marinating is a positive spin on bed rotting, where you just bed rot with another person.
Well, like on Sunday,
That's
especially during football season, I'll sit on my couch and rot for 7 hours. But,
Couch rotting.
Yeah, but like,
Slightly better because at least you left your bed in the morning when you woke up.
I mean, but it's also like, I'm watching football, man. It takes a lot of time to get through all the games.
There were also a few related to feminism and the role it has to play in modern dating. So smashing the datriarchy is a new term. Breaking free from traditional gender-based dating pressures and milestones, singles are redefining love and relationships to prioritize their own happiness and personal desires.
It's just more postmodern.
So it's
bullshit.
just more about you. Alpha Femme, the single girl who isn't waiting around for a knight in shining armor to make the first move. She's confidently taking the lead.
Don't they know that none of this has worked? Like, this seems like this is like... This seems like a BuzzFeed article from 5 years ago. Like, none of this is working. This is all on its way out. I mean,
I would hope so.
I mean,
I think so.
I don't know if I
know
buy that.
Gen Z is far less into using Tinder specifically than millennials.
This seems like
they are dumping the
last
app.
ditch effort for millennials to stay relevant, especially in the dating world.
They did mention tradwife as an alternative. A dating style that embraces traditional gender roles where you cook up the perfect provider husband from scratch.
So even when someone's being normal or traditional,
It has to have
you
a
have to
label.
give a label to it.
Yeah,
You
I
have to
got
give
it.
some stupid lingo
to
to
be
it.
fair, they don't actually want that. They want to be able to do the ballerina farm and make social media posts about being a trad wife, not actually be a trad wife.
dude, social media was a mistake.
There's also AI. Using AI as your dating wingman to craft the perfect text message,
Wait, I'm pretty sure
to write
that
your bio.
Hawk Tua chick had her own AI dating app
She
until
does.
she went silent because of,
No, she's
Hawk Tua coin.
She went to
Right.
bed. She went to bed. She's still asleep.
Oh, she's still sleeping.
Oh.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
68% of singles say that they would use an AI feature to select their photos for them on a dating app.
Well, that one makes sense because you're using something that's so driven by an algorithm.
None of this should be algorithmic.
I know.
You
but
should have enough. Like, if you
you're
don't have
going-
enough confidence to decide what picture of you is best, you have
Right.
no
No,
confidence to actually court
It
another
has
person.
nothing to do with confidence. If you're already using an app that you know is it's going to be dictated by an algorithm, why not use an algorithm to give you a leg up in the app?
That whole thing is a problem.
That's a fake sell
agree.
anyway. It doesn't
I-
actually give you a leg up.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
it might.
It's just taking responsibility off of your shoulders.
Oh, it's not my fault. The algorithm's against me.
There are two of these
I'm not
that
even looking at
I
it in that
actually
lens.
think are not as bad. Brain rot, when two people bond over their shared internet diet, cultural references, and speaking the same language. I do think that is important.
Ooh.
Like
you like
your
the same memes.
Your memes back and forth.
And then also it says in 2024, being a bad texter was considered the most attractive communication style.
Oh, so
That's
not
a
talking.
good sign. But they don't want to text. They would rather talk in person,
It doesn't
right?
say that though. It just
I would
says,
hope.
They're like, you text too much. You should be sending me memes.
you should be silent.
Maybe I'm
Yeah.
being too optimistic, but I agree with that.
I
one.
haven't seen the uptick in wanting to I haven't seen people embracing phone calls again. I have seen people texting less. So I think
'Cause
this
texting
is
sucks.
just more of another example of the internet has made us more divided than connected.
But texting is just such a cheap form of communication.
So what they
It's
don't
too
want
ephemeral.
communication.
I
They're
actually mention
scared.
this sometimes because
They don't want it.
a lot of times Olivia will text me and then or she'll ask me something, in which point I have to call her because I don't want to just have the conversation back and forth. And I need my text screen to show that I called, because if you look just at the transcript, I just look like a really bad person who didn't respond.
Thank you.
I just look like a bad person.
Dude, you should switch this to the Rizmas song.
That's not a bad idea, actually. Christmas is coming
Kellen
up.
had a good idea. I'm shocked.
Dude, I can hear this in my office.
Somebody's gonna need to send me the MP3 file of it. I might need to do
Yeah.
that.
Merry Rizmas, chat.
Merry
Yep.
Christmas. Okay, Kellen. Do you want to see cute or cringe of the day?
Let's do cute. Wait, do I only get one or the other?
No, both.
Which
Okay,
one
do cute
first?
first.
Cute
All right.
first? Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and do that here. Get rid of that. All right. First things first, from Lindsay Tatum. It says Monday moods of Baby Joe.
Aw,
It's got
he's just sniffing the fresh air. Very cute.
big stretch. Ah, that's very
That's how I
mocha-esque.
felt today.
It's very mocha-esque. All right. Terrence Rice. More of my son's cat, Diaz. It says caught in the moment. Oh,
Aw. So cute. Love the eyes.
just hanging out in the car.
It's been all cats recently, man.
A lot of cats. Let's do one more here.
You don't like cats?
Big
Oh,
Dave.
There we go.
There's a dog for
Big
you.
Dave.
Happy day after Thanksgiving. Frankie says, Human, it's naps time.
Nice, big day.
It said naps time. It wasn't nap time.
Okay.
I was not wrong.
I want to see some weird exotic pets,
We've had some
Like a
reptiles
goat.
of sorts and stuff like that.
What about the
Yeah.
Rat.
farmers, chat, that live on a farm? If you guys live on a farm, post your farm animals.
We had a rat, a squirrel.
Rats are not cute.
No, I don't think so.
All right. Well, we've got, speaking of not cute, we've got cringe of the day here as well. This one is rough. Yes.
Oh, I saw this.
yeah.
Oh.
Here we go.
I don't think it's real though.
It says, what I eat in a day, if you're listening to this rather than watching.
What I eat in a day as a fatty who works from home and sits on their butt all day. Good morning. We're having Cookie Quisp.
Quisp?
Non-fat milk.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Oh, as long as it's non-fat milk, right?
Well, I mean, if it had been...
That'll fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ew, why do you need to slurp it like that?
Breakfast number 2.
Breakfast number 2?
You notice she's not swallowing anything. That's why I don't think this is real.
Okay, but she is overweight though.
Oh,
so
100%.
I think
I
think
Red
it's
Bull.
real.
It's sugar-free raspberry and sugar-free vanilla.
Oh, thank God.
Oh, sugar-free. Perfect. Oh, this is breakfast number 5.
Daily Poppy. Chia-ups.
Great.
We got Wingstop again. Got me some little corns too. Can't forget the Diet Coke.
I don't even know what number of meals we're on now.
It's probably like over 5,000 calories, dude. Oh my God. This is the worst part.
The heavy breathing.
It's a lot of food.
Yeah.
Wish I could eat that much in a day.
What makes someone want to post something like that?
You know, probably.
The same
You
reason.
want people to
Going
make
viral.
fun of you?
The
Going
same
viral.
reason people are doing the witchcraft shit
No
on Tinder.
dignity.
Like, dude, like everyone's so obsessed with their own appearance on social media. You're not that important.
Yeah.
It's
All right.
gross.
Let's get
Well,
started.
The identity of the United Healthcare assassin has been unveiled. His name is Luigi Mangione. You've probably heard of him by now. And as expected, Hollywood has its own range of takes on this guy. Some love him and some hate him. Bill Burr says that he loves the alleged assassin, and he loves the fact that insurance CEOs are fearing for their lives.
Did he say he loves the assassin, or did he just say that he loves the fact that they're in fear for their life?
Here was his actual quote. You know what's annoying me about this kid who killed the CEO? None of these news programs are talking about the incredible lack of empathy from the general public about this because of how these insurance companies treat people when they are at their most vulnerable. After we've all given them our money every effing month, and now we finally need you, and all you do is deny us. And then these beeps and all these things are taking the pictures of their CEOs off their websites. I gotta be honest with you, I love that effing CEOs are effing afraid right now. You should be. By and large, you're all a bunch of selfish, greedy effing pieces of shit. And a lot of you are mass murderers. You just don't pull the trigger. That's why it looks clean. That's why these people look. He was just, walking into a hotel. Okay, well, what was his job? What did he do? What was the result of it? So he was essentially praising the shooter.
This is disgusting.
Like, just publicly praising a murderer.
Dude, I don't even know where to begin. Is it like the fact that he's just a complete idiot? Is it the fact that he's being disgusting and basically giving a green light to terrorism?
If this were in a stand-up special from Bill Burr, I would excuse it. It's a stand-up special. You're trying to make people
There's
laugh.
no joke here.
But this was a podcast appearance that
there's
he was
no
doing.
joke
He was
here.
saying all of this totally in earnest.
I know.
And expecting no backlash.
Because when you first brought up the headline, I was like, okay, maybe there's a joke here. Maybe he finds a dark, twisted...
I thought Bill Burr was supposed to be a comedian after all.
Dude,
But
Bill,
none of that was a joke.
Bill Burr, the mob, they will turn on you too. You are a very wealthy individual, and just because you're not in healthcare does not mean you're safe from these friggin' lunatics. Like, these people are nuts. You cannot justify taking another man's life. Like, that's insane. It's just insane. And
it's ironic as they've found out that the shooter grew up incredibly wealthy as well. So I don't know. Are all rich people evil, or are you willing to make an exception for this? Michael Rappaport, on the other hand, has the opposite takes. He said that MFers celebrating this sick F murder suspect. He said, toxic masculinity is back, baby. I don't think it ever left. It was selective. Free Luigi, you MFers have been complaining and whining about toxic masculinity unless it's a cold-blooded killer with a nice jawline. This is who you idolize.
Dude.
This is who you want to be free. A sick, white, privileged, valedictorian, cold-blooded killing F.
Rappaport hit it out of the park on this one.
I mean, I don't think it needed the white.
That didn't really
privilege
need
part,
to
but-
add
it's
the
re-
white
really funny.
privilege
So
take in
It's
there.
Rappaport. I mean, you knew it was coming. But I mean, dude, if Michael Rappaport is the sense of reason, you know the world is upside down.
There was it makes me think, I don't know why this comes to mind, but there was 2 episodes of the show Elementary that really, there's an episode where they're investigating this dude who sells weapons, right? Like he sells weapons to foreign governments and stuff like that. And the point that he makes after they get done talking to this dude is that what he does is distasteful, but it's not illegal, right? And then in another episode, there's a point where character is like, well, why do we really care who killed this guy? He was a bad guy. And he actually makes the point of saying that falls into a form of moral relativism that society can't continue on with. And that was in like 2014 or 2015. I don't know if Hollywood would write that storyline now. I don't know if they would. I think that they love the idea of moral relativism because they don't actually believe in any form of honest goodness. That's why so many of the villains today are rewritten as sort of morally ambiguous. They have a tragic backstory, therefore their actions are okay. So it's seeped into the writing in Hollywood, and a lot of those people have kind of swallowed up their own bullshit and are spewing it back out now without realizing that they've fallen so far from the general public sentiment of these things.
Well, there's this bleeding heart lib attitude toward criminals in general that has been prevalent for many years now. And I think that's actually why Kim Kardashian started studying to become a lawyer. She's still not done. She's like 8 years into becoming a lawyer at this point, which is a long time. But now a lot of people are encouraging Kim Kardashian to save Luigi from prison time and get him a pardon, because Kim Kardashian's track record thus far has been finding criminals and basically getting them
they live
pardons for their
in
crimes.
A fantasy world, these people. It's I just can't, like, they every day they somehow amaze me. I think it can't get worse, and it gets
They're
worse.
not just asking her to legally represent him, they're also asking her to give him brand deals for her loungewear
They
brand.
want this to be a Hollywood movie. They think this is American Psycho.
The same ones. I'm assuming that most of these. I see pushback in the chat. Some people talking about
people, they don't know what they're talking
simping
about.
for greedy corporations. Fine, whatever. But if you're supposed to apply the same logic to what these people tend to love, which is the government, then would you apply that same logic to, say, someone like every president that's ever existed, who have sent your kids off to die in wars they never needed to go on? By that body count, they've killed millions of people too, not just people in foreign countries, but your own American citizens. Obama, all of not. I mean, I didn't give a party example because my point is that it's supposed to be nonpartisan.
No, just
every
recent
politician
memory,
does it, but their answer to this is to make it single payer government health care.
We don't need to get into a healthcare policy debate on this episode.
No,
or
but
any episode.
It's not that. It's if what I think he's saying. It's not about the actual policy or the healthcare at all. It's that powerful person does something I don't like. Why is it okay here but not there? Like it's hypocrisy is what this is.
It's the same reason I get mad whenever they get mad at the government for not paying back their student loans. I'm like, why are they never mad at the schools who charged them the exorbitant amount of money?
Or the hospitals that bill these insurance companies. But I won't get into that debate. What this just shows is that, like, the rule of law does not exist for half of this country. They live in a fantasy world. They think it's Hollywood. Like, it's disgusting.
People are already fan casting a true crime TV show about Luigi Mangione. They're hoping that Ryan Murphy is going to make the next iteration of his Monster series on Netflix about Luigi. And they've already fan cast Dave Franco to play him. I see the resemblance, definitely. I see the resemblance, but I honestly don't think that this is out of the question. I would not be surprised if they announced that the next season of that show is going to be about this guy. I've seen endless thirsting for him on the timeline, like extremely hybristophiliac comments about this guy already.
And it's there's a real problem here. I mean, we always know, like, there's, especially with the serial killers in the 80s, that there'd be women who simp over these dudes, right? With the love letters sent to prisons and stuff. But when you have social media now, it's unlocked something in people where you've seen this just amplified.
They're romanticizing him already.
It's nuts. And I think there's a lot of people that don't realize what they're doing is super dangerous because now there's posters in New York City of faces of other CEOs. Like this is happening, like this is escalating very quickly, and these people think it's a friggin' game. And
Yeah.
it's not. These are real people's lives that you're messing with.
Over the last week, social media has gone wild with tweets about the suspect, and people have been commenting on his uncanny resemblance to Dave Franco. They're incredibly invested in the case for all the wrong reasons and are now calling on Ryan Murphy to create a TV series starring Dave Franco about Luigi. So he's going to basically give him a facelift in pop culture.
Yeah.
Make him look like a sympathetic character to all of these people.
If this does get greenlit as a project, would you be upset with an actor who accepts the role?
No.
No, I wouldn't be upset with the actor. I think people were more upset about the Menendez season that Ryan Murphy created because he totally rewrote history and didn't even consult with the Menendez brothers about what happened and was proud of misrepresenting them.
That was the most shocking.
Not only that, but also he created an entirely fictional story about how they had some kind of incestuous relationship with each other because he has to make his shows pornographic.
Yeah.
I guess that was his priority more than telling the truth of the story. And people had similar complaints when he made the first season about Jeffrey Dahmer. So we can get mad at Ryan Murphy for romanticizing Jeffrey Dahmer, but if he creates a show about the United Healthcare CEO assassin, that's okay?
Yeah.
Like, why?
The whole thing is
They're both murderers.
Yeah. And look, this stuff has become more prevalent in recent years. Obviously, stories around serial killers are nothing new in any respect, but it's become even more common now given the popularity of true crime and all of this. The morality of all of it is, look, everyone in the chat I see arguing about it, and it's fair. If you want to go back and forth about the evils of corporations and the evils of the individual who did it, that's fine. Go back and forth about this. But it just felt to me shocking that Bill Burr went that far. It is. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong.
They also pointed out that Luigi Mangione is cousins with a sitting Maryland state delegate who represents District 42A. And then the QAnons started, and they said, what is 42A backwards? It's A24. A24 is going to make a movie about Luigi Mangione.
Wouldn't be surprised.
My takeaway
wouldn't
from
either.
that was, like, it just shows when you have a comfortable life, you don't know real struggle, so the tiniest things will set you off. Case in point.
I don't know much about it, but it sounds like the guy just lost his mind because he was taking shrooms and other psychedelics for his pain management, and then
I mean, you combine that with the fact
he went
that
missing and lost his mind.
in this age, people overreact about the smallest things and act irrationally. Like, it's just not a good. It's not a good recipe.
He's not a hero.
No.
Definitively, like,
You
we should
can't-
not
you
be
can't justify
romanticizing
it.
or
It's
looking
not
up
even
to this
romanticized.
person.
I see people in chat. They're like it's if you're justifying a murderer. I mean, that's what you're doing. You can spin it any way you want, but that's what you're doing. And just wear the colors that you're.
Well, let's read
whatever.
some super chats.
Do it.
Shane H. Wilder said, "Happy Wednesday, Brett, Mary, and Kellen. I guess." JK Buddy, Mary, the new Exorcist Files is a bonus dive into the Shroud of Turin. It was fascinating. I'm way behind on episodes of Exorcist
Can you
Files, but I
explain
am
the Shroud of
excited.
Turin to me? Can somebody
Can
explain?
I explain the
Yeah.
Shroud of Turin to you? No, but it's believed to be Jesus's burial shroud.
Okay.
And there's a lot of evidence and debate around that. DCNC said, Kellen, how is your golf game going?
It's good, man. It's good. We played last weekend.
How often do you golf?
It slowed down. I just started this past spring, maybe late spring, early summer. Maybe once every 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay.
Not super often. I'd go when I can, but I was having a lot of trouble with my wedge shot, but I finally figured out this past week. It was probably my best round of golf so far, so
There you go.
felt good. Thanks for asking.
Shane H. Wilder said, because the original networks were located in the East Coast, Eastern Time was the standard with Central pulling from that feed and Mountain and Pacific on tape delay. This goes back to radio days.
I always imagine that there's so many like facts like that could probably fill a book.
Yeah.
That is actually really interesting that you'll just never hear about because it's just after your time. It's kind of like I mentioned, like I still very clearly remember when DVDs first came out, it would say now on VHS and DVD, and I still remember the day that it was like some WWF DVD was coming out at that time for like a pay-per-view, and they said DVD and VHS rather than VHS and DVD. And it blew my mind that they had switched it now, signaling that DVDs were the primary source of home media, and VHS was starting to go out of style.
Yeah, I don't really remember VHS tapes.
And now it all
in
kind of
childhood.
it probably all runs together for you a little bit, because technology has expanded at such a rate. Where I was just watching this video about the death of the Zune.
I literally asked you, what's a Zune?
Yeah,
Really?
I don't know
That's
what
so
that
funny
is.
because like you're not that far from me in age, and I know all this stuff.
I know, but things have like changed so fast.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like technology, it all probably runs together.
Feels
now.
further away.
Yeah.
Like I DVDs were super expensive. It was like $25-$30, but if you went to the Goodwill or the thrift store, you can get like 5 VHS tapes for $5.
And you can get quite a few DVDs at the
Nowadays,
thrift store now
yeah.
for like nothing. Like
Nowadays.
that's where, like again, like for me, it's more about ease of watching. Like people complain about streaming services, but I don't do it because it's cost effective. I do it because I don't have to put a DVD in the frickin'
And then you have to like take
it out
and
every
clean
4
it.
episodes.
I miss the smell of
The only
VHS
reason I would want them is to be able to have the audio commentaries for specific episodes of shows, but otherwise,
You didn't like Disney Fast Play?
no.
What the hell is that?
It was like this alternate viewing method.
Yeah.
So you pop the DVD on, all right, and it's like if you don't click this button in 10 seconds, you get thrust into Disney Fast Play.
Just it's like the opposite of choose your own adventure.
yeah.
Okay. Shane H. Wilder said our great grandkids will get 28 decades later. Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah, probably.
Short Bus Bully said 28 years later is going to be at least a 2-parter. They want to do 3. With Nia DaCosta signed on to direct part 2, does this signal that our expectations should be kept rock bottom?
Yeah, probably. Was Nia DaCosta the one who did the
Marvels
Candyman?
and Candyman, yes.
She did the
Yes.
Marvels?
Yes.
Oh, gosh.
In Candyman. Yeah.
To say that she directed the Marvels is a stretch, even.
I mean, Marvel
because
directed the
it's
Marvels.
Marvel.
Yeah.
They Frankenstein together the movie.
I tried to really enjoy that movie, and it was just like,
You really did.
I tried, and it was so boring.
Yeah.
Let's do one more.
Cesario JPN said the Fast and Furious franchise went from street racing to cars in space. Tokyo Drift was the last real Fast and Furious movie.
Wrong.
# bring back street racing.
They're all awesome, and I don't care what you say, but I will agree that it did, come from humble beginnings, but I love the franchise as it is. And to be fair, the 9th movie, the one where they go to space, is the worst of the franchise. So,
Bro, they had, in one of the new Jurassic Park movies, they had, a dinosaur walking through Montana. I'm like, it's a reptile. That doesn't work. Like, there's snow on the ground and stuff. Movies don't make sense, my man. You just enjoy them.
Maybe they're not supposed to.
let's hold off on the rest and let's come back.
An OnlyFans star named Lily Phillips is getting
Oh,
an
God.
incredible amount of publicity right now because she pulled off a record-breaking stunt, sleeping with over 100 men in a day for her OnlyFans. And we have talked about her a couple of times on the show recently for this reason. And what we didn't know is that a YouTuber named Josh Peters actually was invited to record his own documentary about the stunt, and he posted it a few days ago. I unfortunately did sit through this documentary. It, as I said, is not for the faint of heart. There were some really heartbreaking, just gut-wrenching moments in it. It's not explicit in any way. Obviously, it's on YouTube. Nothing is shown of what happened, but she explained her reasoning behind choosing to do this. And throughout the documentary, she was feigning excitement about the stunt. She was pretending to be so excited. She was claiming that this was her fantasy, and she didn't see any reason to be concerned about her safety or even the safety of the men who were participating. She acted like this was totally normal and nobody should judge her for it. And I think in fear of appearing judgmental, nobody thought to even try to stop her from doing this, and I think they should have.
How would they have done that?
Nobody even questioned. Like, nobody in her life who knows her was even like, hey, maybe this isn't such a good idea. There was not even the suggestion.
Do we know if she has a relationship with her family?
She talked about her family in the documentary.
Because when you criticize this type of work, you get accused of being anti-woman, that you're trying to oppress women,
that you're
a misogynist, insecure,
things like that.
So you've
I'm not worried
given
about
there's
that.
no room for criticism anymore.
But
and
it's
so
like,
people would rather be like, all right,
she
I
would
know.
obviously be more open to hearing it from people she actually knows and her
I
friends and family
disagree.
members
I think
instead of strangers.
In this situation, you don't want your family. You don't want to talk about this with your family.
Well, actually, she
It's
does.
easier to talk about
Surprisingly,
this.
she talked about how she talks to both her mom and her dad very frequently. She did not tell her parents about the stunt beforehand. She left it for them to find out later on. And she knew it was not something they would encourage her to do. Their biggest concern is obviously her safety, but also her ability to have a relationship in years down the line. But this already has received so much attention because this YouTuber recorded her reaction moments after sleeping with 100 men, and she is breaking down in tears.
Here we go.
Here is her.
When was the last time you ate?
Well, it's in my thread. I posted the full clip.
It's not this one? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on 1 second. This one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. It's not for the weak, girls, if I'm honest. It was hard. I don't know if I'd recommend it.
Why not?
I think if you're a different type of girl, it's very like... It's kind of like being a prostitute in a sense of like, it's just a different feeling. I don't know how to explain it, like...
It's not like just having sex with someone.
Yeah. Just one in, one out, like it feels intense.
Like more intense than you thought it might.
Definitely.
Who is she talking to here?
The YouTuber, Josh Peters.
It's tragic.
Yeah.
I mean, what you're seeing here is her realizing, oh, the haters were right. Like, I'm nothing but I'm a prop, basically. That's what I think. That's what you're seeing in this video.
Was this what you expected from the documentary?
I definitely expected her to be shaken by the experience, but not necessarily show that on camera.
Well, I mean, it was probably easier to see that because it was a third party who made it, whereas she probably wouldn't have released something that showed this.
I would have assumed that she would put on a front for the camera and then break down later on when no one is watching.
Mm-hmm.
But it clearly was so traumatic to her, both physically and mentally, that she just couldn't hold it anymore and broke down in tears. And I am not surprised by that at all. In that moment, she realized the massive mistake that she had made. And I just think it's so sad that she was kind of daring the people around her to stop her. And nobody stopped her because they didn't want to seem judgmental.
Do you think you mean subconsciously she was doing that?
Subconsciously, I do think that she was hoping for someone to stop her from doing this.
But you admitted that, like, so anyone whose criticism she valued was not in her circle anymore. She kept this from her parents, and I guarantee friends that were critical of her lifestyle were kicked out a while ago.
She also has no dating prospects, of course.
Yeah.
I mean,
so who is she going to actually, whose word will she value?
Even this YouTuber who is documenting the whole thing, I don't even know if you can sleep at night knowing that you allowed this to happen and profited off of it indirectly as well. Like, I wouldn't feel at peace with that.
I disagree
but
there.
She was hoping that someone would convince her not to do this, and then when nobody stopped her because they were afraid of seeming judgmental or misogynistic or sex negative or shaming her, I think that actually confirmed to her this belief she has that she's not worth anything more than being a prostitute.
So
She clearly believes very little of herself. And if you watch the documentary, you'll hear her dropping self-deprecating remarks the entire time. She even invites this YouTuber into her home and starts making him a cup of tea. And she's like, I'm not very good at making tea. I'm only good for one thing. Haha. She believes that. Like, she really hates herself. And nobody is standing there to correct her or say, like, you're actually digging yourself into a deeper and deeper hole here.
the
Like,
money is hell of a drug. I mean,
I was going to say there's strong connections to this, to increasingly self-destructive behavior from drug use. I was trying to think of like a male corollary to something like this. And the first thing that came to mind was like Tom Cruise doing increasingly more dangerous things for every movie he does. But that's with millions of dollars and lots of safety protocols put in place.
and it's a creative endeavor.
And it's a creative
not
endeavor.
Something that's
I can't
self-destructive.
think of a male corollary where, other than perhaps just the idea that somebody becomes increasingly more self-destructive through something like drug use.
Yeah.
well, what she did is like a lot of women's worst nightmare. Like going through this physical feat, trying to keep it light, but in a single day, like that's a punishment for most women. They're like, oh my God. Like, you hear about the tragic stories of in Israel and Palestine between some of the hostages and what they've had to go through and stuff like that. Like, and she just voluntarily did it, you know?
Yeah, not only did she volunteer to do this, but she's also pledging to up the ante. And she's now saying that in 2025 she's going to sleep with over 1,000 men in a day, which I went and did the math. You, in order to do that, would actually have to be having sex nonstop for 24 hours, with each man getting no more than 90 seconds each. That is a suicide attempt. Like, that is actually a medical emergency. You cannot do that without severely traumatizing and injuring yourself. Obviously, physically, but mentally as well. You can never come back from that type of trauma.
Yeah.
And it's self-inflicted. She's doing this to humiliate herself and also confirm her own self-hating beliefs that she likely had before she ever started OnlyFans.
Yeah.
She likely had self-esteem issues well before she went into this line of work, and now she is using that as a front, telling people she loves what she does.
So I saw the 1,000 number. Did she make that announcement before doing this feat?
This was after she had filmed 100 Guys.
So she's gone through the trauma or whatever, and then she's like, all right, time to do it all again.
Now no one is stopping her all over again.
There is also, this has become another proxy war for the men and the feminists to argue about online, because the feminists are saying, look at these disgusting men. This is male sexuality is destructive. And the men are saying, look, she's an adult woman. She's responsible for her own actions. So we then fit into the sweet spot of the culture war there as well, where everyone goes back and forth about just who's at fault for this one individual's behavior.
Everyone involved was at fault. Obviously, she was at fault for coming up with this idea and actually going through with it. She shouldn't have done that. And yes, like, she should have stopped of her own accord. But also, her staff members, she admitted she has like 8 or 9 staff members on payroll for her business, if you would call it that. None of them wanted to stop her because they profit off of it. And all of the men involved are also at fault. There is plenty of blame to go around, and it's not a men versus women thing. A lot of people are talking about the way this is negatively affecting her, but even if you watch through the documentary and listen to the interviews that Josh Peters did with the men as they walked out of the Airbnb, you can hear in their voices that even they are traumatized by what they just experienced. Like, there was a man who walked out of the Airbnb who was shaking and couldn't hold a water bottle up to his face after doing this, because they didn't realize what they were getting into.
Maybe the other issue here is that the men who go through with something like this, they're not revered in any way. Like, they're not looked at greatly or negatively. They're just like, everyone's like, what the fuck? Why would you do that? But the women are supposed to be held up, and they're supposed to be, you know, spoken of in great regard now, according to feminism, for her doing this. So the men are just men, and the women are heroes for doing something like this. And
I
that's a
have
problem.
not. Fortunately, I have not seen any takes from feminists who are saying that this is a good thing.
At the very least, they're saying that she should be allowed to do what she wants.
I haven't
and
even
it's-
seen that. Actually, I've seen a lot of reactions from feminists who normally would celebrate this type of thing, and they're like,
Before
even
this video came out, there was. Before the video of her breaking down in tears, there was.
That's why I
yeah,
wanted
but it's
to,
like, how stupid do you have to be to think that that wouldn't be the natural conclusion of
I think a
this?
lot of people are that stupid.
Like
that's why I wanted to push back when you critiqued the guy that made the documentary, because people need to see this. People need to see
in that way, it was
how
a good thing.
broken she is, how broken the men are. So because like as the OnlyFans market becomes more and more saturated, like Brett was saying, they're gonna do more and more extreme things. So to like the young women out there that are thinking about getting into this, they should see this to know exactly how dark it can get.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, and that's why I think like we shouldn't shame the YouTuber for making a documentary if he was unbiased. I didn't see it. I know you did, so I don't know if he was like cheering her on.
No,
or
he
anything.
wasn't. He wasn't cheering her on. He was actually asking some thought-provoking questions.
Yeah, and
I want
think
to
we
show
need
some
that.
other clips from it. In this one, they're walking down the street, and she talks about how she realized sex isn't special. She used to think that sex was special, and now she doesn't.
This one?
Yeah.
Before I had sex, I was never much for. I actually wanted to wait till marriage at one point. I just used to think it was a real special thing. As soon as I actually did it and had, I kind of realised that it wasn't special.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just like surprising to hear her say that she previously was planning to wait until marriage to have sex, and that's the way that she used to view it, as a special thing, which is and it should be.
I mean, what do you if you are her father or her mother, what are you supposed to do in this situation? I mean, I'm trying to think of like, because
what wouldn't you do in that situation?
I was thinking earlier is like, at what point does this become like a brothel that she's running?
She's even admitted
know,
that like some of her father's friends who knew her since she was a little girl watch her content.
I mean, I'm not really like
disgusting.
You talk about some of these weirdos online are like talking about like go no contact with your family, but I'm like, no, you shouldn't cut people off. Cancel culture is not a good thing. But then you see situations like this where she's unapologetically, destroying her life on camera.
Okay, disowning her is not the first step. At least I don't know if it's a step you should ever take as a parent. I can't speak to that, but it's certainly not the first step. The first step would be as the parent to tell her this is a bad idea before it even starts. If she does it anyway, you don't support her.
Are they supporting her?
She says that they are supportive of her, even though she doesn't tell them the details.
They get what they
just
deserve.
coping.
They get what they deserve then.
And then this last clip I wanted to show is her talking about her limited prospects to get married in the future due to her line of work.
And do you think your partner one day will be someone from the industry most likely, or?
Yeah, I talk about this a lot with my parents because that's the one thing I guess they worry about is like, will you ever find a boyfriend?
Yeah.
But there's so many guys out in the world. I think, one poor bastard's got to marry me. I rather think it's going to be someone from the industry or someone who is into lending me out.
Lending you out?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's not going to settle down.
So
Unless she drastically changes her worldview.
She clearly believes that no man is ever going to commit to her. She might be right about that. I don't know.
She's only getting older, and like, there's a reason Bill Belichick has a 24-year-old girlfriend, guys. I mean, I'm like,
I don't even think I don't think that even occurred to her. I think she has believed herself to be unlovable and worthless for much longer than she has been doing OnlyFans, and the OnlyFans is just a symptom of that. And that can be said for a lot of the women, maybe all of the women who are doing the same thing on a smaller scale. But she's saying whoever marries her is a poor bastard, and the only man she'll ever find is one who wants to pimp her out to other men. Like that's
exactly what your potential suitors
she
want to
hates
hear.
herself. She hates herself, and she's just like begging the world to disagree with her, and instead what they're doing is cheering her on or permitting it passively, and it's really sad to see.
All right.
Shane H. Wilder said, I love my theater, $7 tickets and reclining seats. What?
Is
we
that like a
we have
Tuesday
like
special or
twice
something?
that, if not more.
I think if you go
for
during
one
the,
adult ticket.
I think if you go at like 3 o'clock during a weekday, you can get those deals.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like, what is the most inconvenient time for you? Then
Exactly.
you can have that ticket. Like, it's actually
And
different
only
for
in the
everyone.
front row.
You have to prove that you have something else going on at that time, and if you do, they'll give you a ticket for $7.
Surenko Productions said Jurassic World, Hollywood was so preoccupied with whether or not they didn't stop to think if they should do the reboot.
Well,
That's a good
you
point.
know, they're not going to let IP just sit on the shelf.
Should doesn't matter. I think if you take the two stories we talked about with the movies and this Lily girl, money makes people do a lot of stupid things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does.
Corey Anderson said, no, Kellen, you pass on. Cuddling dudes is gay. Yeah, you should die instead of snuggling with your bro. That's the only straight
What did they call
option.
it when raw dogging a flight, raw dogging Mount Everest?
Yeah.
No cuddling to keep warm.
Nah. Shane H. Wilder said, nah, Kellen, it's gay. Get hypothermia like a man.
Oh, jeez.
Be a man.
All right, chat
Be a man.
decides. I'm wrong.
Die.
I'm wrong on this one.
Do one more. We're almost at a second crisis party, guys. Do so to improve the vibe in this room. My goodness, after that story.
And you were worried that you weren't going to be sad enough about
It's
it.
not. I wouldn't say it's sad. I saw a few chats like, don't feel sorry for her. It's not that I feel sorry for her. It's just you can't really find joy in this topic.
No,
it's not
I
that I
don't
feel bad for her.
I don't feel. Maybe it's just a personal response, but when I see these stories, it's literally the meme. Well, anyways, and I just move on with my day because that type of depravity exists. That type of depravity is always going to exist. And I understand that for most, or for a lot of people, the idea is that you have to speak on it because you have to feel like in some way that you can combat such things. But I just don't have the bandwidth to care about self-destructive people. It's kind of like we were talking about with the shooter and stuff. Have you ever heard the statement? It's like, one death is a tragedy, 1,000 deaths is a statistic, right? So in this case, it's the one person is the face of a tragedy, the tragedy being the moral decay around what's happening with women and sexuality and the internet and all that stuff. But to me, it's one face and it's the death of 1,000, moral problems that are going on right now. And I understand if it's your topic and interests you heavily. Obviously, everybody has their own things that interest them. For me, these things, I just move on with my day and I say, that sucks.
I mean, are you under the impression that I don't do the same? I do the same thing.
No. I'm saying, but you tend to have more evocative thoughts on it than me. Like whenever we cover one of these topics, you tend to have very clear, concise thoughts about how you feel about it. And I'm always kind of just I'm just kind of stunned into like, well, that's awful.
It
makes it difficult.
But everyone has that take, and you kind of have to you kind of have to talk about it a little bit more and digest the issue so you can really figure out why it's awful. Like it's not because a lot of the reactions is like, quit being a prude. That's why you don't like OnlyFans and stuff like that. It's like, no, there's issues that are much deeper than that surface level reaction. And if you don't hash out the conversations, I don't think you ever break through the surface.
Again, but the thing is like the topic as a whole, as depressing as it is, isn't the tragedy to me. Her specific story is the tragedy to me. Her coming out of that situation and being in tears, that's a tragedy that I can look at and I can identify rather than the vague theorist notion of the whole topic as one.
I will say this is kind of like how in the Vietnam War, right? People started being anti-war because they could finally see it on their TV screens. When we just talk about, this OnlyFans culture, it doesn't do it justice. Then you see a documentary of her breaking down. It's like, oh, now I get it.
Right. 200 Watt Studio said, I had code names for my ex-girlfriends: legs, stinky, leaky, smoke detector noise, and paper bag.
Not smoke detector. No.
Well, you really know how to pick them, huh?
So
I hope the code names came about after you broke up.
what's weird is that all of them seem negative except for possibly legs.
Possibly.
Does she only have like one leg? Is that why? Like,
Oh, Yeah, it was a little
Stumpy.
You have to have like Grok create these nicknames into superheroes or something.
Yeah. All right. Let's hold off on the rest and let's come back after the fact. I want to talk a little bit about James Bond in a discussion that's come back up once again because one of the stars of a recent James Bond movie, Quantum of Solace, I guess star would be a little bit of an overstatement. She played Strawberry Fields in Quantum of Solace. Gemma Arterton's talking about how there doesn't need to be a female James Bond, and maybe it's okay to embrace a little bit of traditionalism. And I think it matters because a lot of the discussions lately have been about the idea of passing the mantle of characters from one to the other and whether audiences even embrace something like that. And this is particularly relevant in the James Bond franchise because it's one of the easiest outs that they could possibly have that they, to be fair, have not utilized entirely yet, but they're like, it's just a code name.
Yeah.
The other person can be 007. It could be a woman.
Yeah, the loophole that they would use
It's a loophole.
is, hey, don't worry, James Bond is always going to be a man. That doesn't mean that 007 is always going to be a man. Why are you so mad? Why do you care so much? So here's what she said. Isn't a female James Bond like Mary Poppins being played by a man? They talk about it, but I think people would find it too outrageous. Sometimes you just have to respect the tradition.
I mean, that quote right there should be put on something and like put that above a studio building, right?
Maybe not even sometimes. You should just kind of always respect the tradition,
right? Like, and here's the thing. The reason why the tradition works is because James Bond is the masculine power fantasy. The man wants to save the day, and the woman wants to be saved by the extremely capable man who saves the day, which is why the movie does well, because it appeals to both men and women, because if you are not a postmodernist douchebag, you understand that men and women are different and get different things from different movies. You don't need to make a female like James Bond. You can have a cool female character that James Bond can either work with or save, and everybody leaves that movie happy. The men get to come out feeling like they would save the day on a plane if a terrorist tried to hijack it, and the women can live with the fantasy of being saved by the ultra-capable spy who looks cool in suits and saves the day. It's not rocket science. It actually just goes back to basic human instincts and the desires men and women have between one another. But because Hollywood is ridiculous and stupid, they constantly want to shift narratives and reinvent the wheel when you don't need to do that.
Yeah,
it's very stupid.
James Bond, not only James Bond, but also 007 as a mantle. That's a character that is inextricable from masculinity. That character has to be a man. But when you try to blur the lines, nobody wins. The women watching don't win, and the men watching don't win. Women don't want to watch a female James Bond movie.
They don't want to watch a female save. The women don't want to watch a female save men. Men don't want to watch a female save men.
No,
it's not a thing.
It's not attractive.
This kind of reminds me of like when female digital artists first started getting into the video game like teams. And you saw like Halo is a good example, right? The brand has been completely destroyed because women writers wanted to create a Halo for a modern audience, right? They changed a bunch of stuff. They refused to play the games. That's kind of reminds me of this, where like there's a disconnect between the actual artists and the people who are trying to market it. You know, and these people think, hey, you got to get that, you got to get the women audience, right? They want to feel represented.
Were the Daniel Craig James Bond films waning in relevance and success?
He was just getting old, I think.
Yes.
As time went on.
Yeah,
and they would blame that on.
They were also okay. So one of the problems is it was up and down. So Casino Royale is really, really, really good, and I think most people, despite it being a departure from the traditional suave style of James Bond, Martin Campbell brought it back to life post Pierce Brosnan era in a very, very unique way. The cinematography is amazing in that film. Then you get Quantum of Solace. Like I said, I'm the only person in the world who likes that movie. There's probably like 3 other people. If there was an r/Quantum of Solace, it'd be like me and like 2 other people. Okay, all shaky cam, makes you want to vomit. I still love the movie, but more because it's indicative of a time to me that was prior to what we get now, which is Hollywood injected with postmodernism and weird Marxist philosophy, which becomes all of what you see now. Men versus women, all of this stuff. And in that movie, they still have all the stuff you can imagine. It's really funny. The bad guy, he's an environmentalist who helps the CIA with a coup in Bolivia and then tries to hoard the world's water supply. He's an evil CEO, just like the... See what I'm saying? Right? Okay. Then you go on, and then it gets really, really good in Skyfall, and people really, really like Skyfall. And then what was the one after Skyfall? It was the one with Dave Bautista.
No Time to Die?
No, the one before that. Anyways,
Another Day?
no, that was from the Daniel Craig.
No.
The point is, it's up and down quality, and it's all over the place. But the problem is, people don't really look at Daniel Craig as the preeminent Bond. In fact, they see him as too touchy-feely, too emotional. He fell in love with Vesper. He falls in love again later. There's a great picture that they use as an example of this where he's they show Daniel Craig on the they show Pierce Brosnan with Michelle Yeoh where he's on the front of the motorcycle and she's on the back and they're handcuffed together. And then they show Daniel Craig on the back of a scooter with Lashana Lynch, and you're like, what could be more indicative of where Hollywood has gone than to see him literally take the back seat?
What's interesting though is because at the
Spectre, thank you.
At the top of the show, we were talking about John Wick Ballerina, right? So it's interesting that you've got two franchises with just a badass dude. One of them saying, "Hey, we can't just have someone else be John Wick, right? Let's keep the world, let's keep the universe, and tell a new story within it." And then you've got James Bond that's like, no, we can't add a new character to the James Bond universe.
Well, they were going to make...
we have to replace James Bond. So
they were going to make that. They were going to do that with Halle Berry. They were going to use the Jinx character from Die Another Day, the one that she did with Pierce Brosnan. It was like the last one in that trilogy. Or in that 4 movies, they thought she was going to have her own film, and then it just never happened, right? But I'll give you an example of why female characters work using the actress that they did here. And she's not even a main character in the film, but in the movie, they send the Strawberry Fields character as like a government, she's like a bureaucrat who's sent to like basically wrangle James Bond and bring him back to MI6 headquarters. And then he charms her, he sleeps with her, he ropes her into what he's doing, and she's killed. So there is a story there that's very interesting and corners into the market of like female interest, female desire. What would be the repercussions of being a woman in the orbit of James Bond? I would argue that that is a more interesting story than asking whether Strawberry Fields can shoot an M16.
Well, let's try to steel man the argument. And I want to go back to the loophole that they use to justify the idea of gender swapping, not James Bond, but 007. I found an opinion piece that says, is it really so far-fetched that we see Daniel Craig's James Bond retire? No, it isn't. But if he is leaving, it begs the question, what does 007 mean without the man? A question that is actually quite exciting. The role of 007 has been defined by diplomacy, interrogation, seduction, extraction, and charisma. And then it goes on to say the 007, whether a man or a woman, would have to have gadgets, and that would mean that it doesn't involve physical strength, which a man would have as an advantage over a woman. And technically all of those qualities that they listed wouldn't have anything to do with whether the character is male or female, but they didn't list any of the qualities that you have been talking about just now.
First of all, he's suave.
None of that has anything
suave
to do
doesn't
with
matter. Like women don't
props.
Yeah. Like one of the qualities of James Bond is he's suave, so that he can go in and out of these these high class worlds. Does it matter if a woman is suave? No. If a woman is going to go in and out of those worlds, she has to be seductive. Okay, that's an inversion on what the whole point of the story is.
They're also making the argument that we need this for diversity purposes. Thank you. It says, over the decades, the UK has learned to embrace cultural pluralism.
What does that even mean?
Shut up. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up.
No!
You don't need to do that.
The UK has learned to embrace cultural pluralism and has even made it part of its own national identity. The national dish of the UK
is that the new buzzword?
Chicken tikka masala. So if the nation can have an Indian staple as its national dish, why the hell can't it have a black female 007?
Why does it need it?
Lashana Lynch is a British actress, so I don't see the problem here. If she takes up the role of 007, she isn't violating the spirit of the franchise's cultural setting. She's giving us a different aspect of it.
Then you're a different character. Then it doesn't mean anything. The whole point of boring, stupid, postmodern philosophy is to challenge some type of status quo and power structure, but the power structure of James Bond is based around that character, right? If you're just going to ask a bunch of questions, you don't have time to actually tell an interesting story.
Do they even need to make another James Bond? Period.
A lot of
I've yet
people
to
are
hear that
asking.
question.
Look, I don't think that matters. Like, I don't think. Do they need to? They don't need to make a new Jurassic Park either.
Listen, dude, if they're having this much trouble figuring out the future, it does not make me excited
Why
or
can't
hopeful
James
for
Bond
the
be a
product.
fish? Why can't James Bond be a dog? Why can't James Bond be American? Why can't James Bond be dead and brought back to life by some type of Haitian spell? I don't fucking know. Ask 10,000 questions, get 10,000 answers. Sometimes something just is what it is, and that's what it's supposed to be.
Well, that's we're going back to we have to deconstruct everything.
Yes, stop deconstructing.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, listen, it's another sequel, right? So the creativity is gone from Hollywood. That's not happening anymore. They're just gonna reboot this again, and why even go down this route? How many times is a project, a reboot, successful versus how many times does it just piss everybody off?
I do not care if they want to reboot, if they continue in the honest portrayal of the character.
But they're not going to. That's a far cry.
Well, if they already messed that up with Daniel Craig.
Look, and this thing, people were taken in, right? Because he is very different from past Bonds. He's more emotionally visible, meaning you see more into who he is as a person because of his relationship with Vesper early on in Casino Royale. But again, that was in 2006. The world was very different in 2006, and people were looking for something different. But now we've had 20 years of something different. People don't want something different anymore. They want traditional. They want it to go back to what it was.
But what does that mean? What is how far back?
That he should be handsome.
Should he slap women again?
Yes.
Should he?
Yes, he should.
Genuinely, would you be pleasantly surprised?
That is not a hallmark of the character. That's one specific example.
But would you be pleasantly surprised, no lying allowed, to see that in the next James Bond
No,
film?
because there's no way it wouldn't be done for shock value and as some type of social statement. It can't be attached to that.
When, how far back when you're talking about tradition? Because for the last 2 decades, the tradition is Daniel Craig's James Bond. You have a whole generation of people that only know Daniel Craig James Bond.
James Bond is more famous than just Daniel Craig. In fact, the discussion is still who is the best James Bond, not is Daniel Craig
the archetype is also that dates back further than even the James Bond
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Itself.
I know your question was tongue-in-cheek, but I think it's an important question. How far back are we talking? Pierce Brosnan days, or even further back?
Look, I love the entirety of the Pierce Brosnan era. I saw somebody mention The World Is Not Enough in there. The World Is Not Enough is a highly underrated James Bond after taking on communism or the fall of the Soviet Union in GoldenEye, and then an evil propagandist media mogul in in Tomorrow Never Dies. He then takes on an anarchist.
I got it. James Bond will save Ukraine.
Yeah.
That'll be the new one.
Played by
Zelensky.
Yeah.
Zelensky for the next James Bond.
For another 2 decades. He's young
He can
enough.
Reignite his acting career. Yep. I mean, I see it.
I got to be careful because they'll do it. They'll do it too.
They ask consistently why, they say we need to do this for diversity. We need to do this because it means something. No, you don't need to do anything unless it's in service of the story. Everything else that you want to achieve, you could do through creating new characters that do that, but they won't do that because they're also lazy and don't want to try and build new franchises. They want to build off the back of other franchises. They want to stand on the shoulders of giants and then piss on them, which is annoying.
I do, but you got to realize that dude, for a lot, especially the new generation of writers and directors that are coming into these rooms, right? All they know is Daniel Craig is James Bond. So they're like, why not? Why not? Let's just be drastic.
Big question. A big problem now is like modern writers didn't read classics or really understand literature where these stories were derived from in the past. Now all they understand are streaming shows and the art itself rather than
the Marvel formula. Let's make the universe bigger. Let's do 10 sequels.
I will say, do not cast Idris Elba. He is too old. Make him a very cool villain in the next one. He can do a very good villain. They're already trying to make Idris Elba a quasi James Bond in the way they've soft rebooted the Luther franchise with the Luther movie they did on Netflix in 2022. Fallen Sun or whatever it was, where he goes from it being like a detective character study to being like this globe-trotting spy type film. So look, the problem is they're making it more complicated than it needs to be. Telling a solid spy thriller can be done. You're just being interrupted by a bunch of weirdo postmodernists, Marxists, and feminists who want to put modern day ideas into a classic formula.
Who would you like to see as James Bond?
I think Aaron Taylor Johnson is a solid choice.
Is he too big of a name?
Wasn't that disproven?
I don't know. No, I'm saying I think he's a good choice. I don't know if he will be the choice. I've come around. I've kind of reformed my idea. Maybe it's because it's been so long since I've seen Citadel and Wretched. But Richard Madden does have at least the physical look to be James Bond. So he could maybe pull it off with the right script. But no. When it comes down to it, men don't want it. Women don't want it. Nobody wants it. Don't do it. Okay.
They're going to do it.
They're going to do it.
Okay, let's finish up these super chats. Uncle Lou said, I guess I was bed rotting before it was cool. I thought it was just depression. It is that. They just came up with a cute
Unless
word
football's
for
on
it.
and it's Sunday, then no, you're good, dude. I'm telling you.
Henry Cavill is probably too big of a name now.
He's also too old, isn't he?
He's getting, what is he pushing? He's over 40. I mean, he could probably still do it if they limited him to 3 movies and they got onto it real quick and they filmed them all one right after the other. But, you know, I don't think he needs, I think they would need him more than he would need James Bond. Henry Cavill's great. He's busy with Warhammer anyways.
I'm excited for that, and I don't even play Warhammer.
Not that Jon Stewart said breaking down gendered dating norms still expects the man to pay, I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did she do all that and then offer to go
It's like
Dutch?
They would talk a big talk about that, then in reality get offended if you didn't offer. You know? They want you to offer
So it's a shit test.
so they can reject it. It's a shit test. Pat the Plumber said astrology and tarot cards
here we
aren't
go.
witchcraft. They're scams. It's like calling fortune cookies witchcraft.
Dude, no, you're wrong. I've heard this from so many people. That's not real witchcraft. It's all garbage. It's all lame and dumb.
I would just say, like, biblically speaking, all of those things fall into divination, which I am using interchangeably with the word witchcraft. I'm not referring to, like, the religion of Wicca right now. Rena Ran That Way said she's not a hobbit. She doesn't deserve a second breakfast. Yeah, you're right. Skateman 2010 said sign Brett Cooper now. Thumbs up. Praying hands.
We'll get right on that.
Yeah.
We'll do that. The Rumbling said, why don't you guys just put an Ian on to talk crystals? People should only post pics of their relationship for their family to let you know you're okay.
What?
Or to let know you are okay.
I don't know. Decipher that.
Like
I don't know what that last
to make sure you're not being
means.
held hostage,
I guess.
or what?
I don't know
Yeah.
if that's, I don't know if I detect a hint of sarcasm.
Just turn your
in there.
location on when you're on a date with a stranger, I guess.
I
Is
guess
what you're saying.
I post pictures to my story, but my Instagram is literally just skating.
Dude, what if I'm stacking? I can't have
What if you're
3
stacking?
stories in
you
one
can't,
night.
You can't let the others know. Or no, you have like 3 different close friends lists.
Yeah, there you
where
go.
none of them can see it.
Big super chat here from Mr. Moose Knuckle.
George Lazenby could have been one of the best Bonds if he had more movies to work in, IMO. Years ago, I would have chosen Henry Cavill, who would have been a pretty book-accurate looking Bond, but now I'm happy he's doing the Warhammer 40k series.
A lot of people would have said that too because he did The Man from U.N.C.L.E. in 2015, so he would have been right in line.
Well, the
Lady
reason
Kirkin.
I'm excited for Warhammer is he's going to be in the writing room and directing it. and starring in it, and I know how much the guy loves the game, so you know it should be
funny
a
if it's just
good
really
product.
bad. Like it's
I know.
it's accurate.
No, but even
it's
if
accurate,
it's bad,
filled with love, but it's just bad, and I bet you people would still love it.
If
Probably.
if it's bad, I swear, like all of the people hyping it up are just gonna pretend that they like
No,
it.
but
anyway.
it's not even about pretending. It's literally
Well, they don't know
if
that they're
they
pretending.
if they can feel the love that went into it, you don't care.
Yeah.
Like
Personally, I hated The Witcher.
I didn't like The Witcher.
Absolutely hated every minute of watching that show. Mr. Joker said Bill is spineless. When Gina was fired, he was on a podcast with Bert Kreischer, dodged the Gina question. They will cancel my bald action figure.
I think his wife would just get mad at him.
Bill seems to
wait.
go whatever way the wind blows, to be honest.
What does this have to do with Gina Carano? Given that they
After-
worked together?
Yeah, on Star Wars.
Oh,
He
I
was
see.
in The Mandalorian.
Honestly, if I were him, I wouldn't want to get involved either. But yeah, fair. Shane H. Wilder said, all I will say is a person is not a corporation and people have a right to life from conception to natural death. Is that about the
It was
CEO?
about the CEO.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I would
point.
hope there's nobody calling for violence in the chat.
The chat-
Please don't do that.
Like half the chat, they were getting into it with each other.
Also, remember that the people who do take that attitude will not stop just at CEOs.
Oh, no.
They will change the goalpost
There is
endlessly.
something
Luigi wouldn't be
broke.
safe.
If you feel like that's a good thing, what happened with the CEO and this Luigi character, right? If you feel that's a good thing, something's broken inside of you, and you can justify it any way you want. You can call me whatever name you want, but that's the truth of the matter. Something's broken. You got to fix it because that's not a normal way to feel about someone because you disagree with politics.
Like, nobody even knew who this guy was before he
I know,
died.
and all of a sudden, he deserved it.
I never liked that guy.
There's we're about halfway to a third crisis party, guys.
Skoborsh Koilenkov said evil corporations, get rid of them, no health insurance, then what?
Well, I mean, yeah, like, is the idea here that to just make the concept of even being an insurance company so
That's what they
dangerous
want. This is
that
a s-
the government, the very virtuous
The biggest
and moral
corporation.
federal government is going to come in and help. Yeah.
The biggest corporation will save us, not these smaller corporations, Brett.
Yep.
But that's the thing. This is just a stepping stone. When you justify it, you're justifying socialism,
It's
right?
very spiritually
I mean, it's a
leftist.
stepping stone. If you can justify this, there's a whole lot more. Like, it's a slippery slope.
Not that Jon Stewart said, Mary, you would either look up the showtimes for movies in the local newspaper or
Yep.
call the theater directly from the home phone, and they would have a recording that listed all the movies and showtimes.
There was also Movie Phone, which was a number you
Ah,
could call, which had all of the movie times.
Remember when Kramer was getting all the movie phone?
Yes.
Wait, what?
There was a Seinfeld bit where Kramer's phone number gets mixed with movie phone, so people are calling him for movie phone, and he like opens up the newspaper. He's like, yeah, Rochelle's playing at 8 p.m. No problem, buddy.
Movie Phone, man.
So you just called that on your home phone?
Yeah. Yeah.
But what theater were you calling?
I don't even remember.
Which theater
like,
were you calling?
it's been so long. Like, you probably put in your zip code,
Yeah.
and it gave you the theater closest to you.
Okay.
Closest major city, maybe.
Interesting. Boosted Yogi said those are rookie numbers. Let me introduce you to Alexis, Texas.
Well, the women who have worked in porn for like an extended period of time legitimately are a different breed than somebody. Like I said, one of the things that changed was sites like OnlyFans made porn more accessible. So people who thought they could do it and didn't realize until it was too late that they weren't cut out for it. Very different from people who took a long path to get into that world, and they are legitimately of a different breed.
It's true, and it reminded me I was going to bring up Arden Young. She was on the Culture War a while ago, and they went undercover and exposed Pornhub executives who they know. They have data on how addicting it is. They're like, it's just like a drug. So you combine that with how lucrative, how much money this Lily girl's making it, on top of the fact that the whole industry is addicting. Like,
Yeah.
she might as well be a junkie.
Yep, that's kind of the business model.
Well,
is
that's what
brainwashing
What
people.
we came down to is like I couldn't think of a correlation for men. All I could come back to was
There's
drug
not
addiction
a
and
corollary
devolving.
that also makes you millions of dollars either.
You could make the argument like maybe somebody like if we're talking about adrenaline junkies who do more and more dangerous stunts. I don't know if that's
Maybe.
lucrative, but I think of like, have you ever?
That's who came to mind to me.
Have you seen those videos, the dudes who like hop between banisters on the top of skyscrapers?
Yes.
That's actually like, and I've told this to you, and I think I've mentioned on the show before, like there's actually like a point in action sports, whether it's skating, biking, free running, parkour, where people stop being impressed and they start asking, why don't you love your mother? Like where, like, and here's the thing, any of these sports, the one wrong move could still kill you. Like there's still points where it's like, I've done rails, ledges, or jumped gaps where if you hit your head the wrong way, you're done. Okay.
Yeah.
I've had multiple concussions. Okay. But nobody asked that question because it doesn't quite have the same feel of danger, because it's only you might die. There is an aspect of parkour or these things or free running that is not you might die. It's you will die if you don't make it, right? And then they're like, don't you love your family? Why are you doing this? And then those people go back and forth with them in the comments, like, I don't do it for money. I don't do it for anything other than the fact to push myself in my boundaries. And people have their own philosophical discussion back and forth about the efficacy of that mindset.
The perfect example is Disney's Free Solo with Alex Honnold, who climbed El Capitan with no supports, and they address this. He's like my parents, like he has to have conversations with them about it, because any day he goes out for a climb could be his last. There's no safety line. If he slips, if the rock breaks,
even that's like inherently impressive. What you guys are talking about is inherently.
We're talking about the danger
impressive.
and the level of destructiveness is on par with each other. Yes, the one is much more admirable than the other.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Nate said, I think you're wrong on OF girl. I think she is putting on a front. She wants you to feel sorry. It's manipulation. She's an awful person.
So you think that she's doing it to make it more
play both sides,
tantalizing?
So wait, you're gonna subscribe to the OnlyFans because you feel sorry for her?
I think what he's saying is she's playing both sides. She's being the badass girl boss, right? She can do 100 men in one day, right? But then she's also being the sympathetic, like the sad, innocent, pure little, the woman that. So like, is she making money off this YouTube documentary? Probably. She's probably got a cut from it.
I wouldn't say that. That's
you don't think
more
so?
about the publicity
he would
for her.
need to I would prefer that the filmmaker disclose that then if she's getting a.
Well, but I think that's what the super chat was saying, is that she's playing both sides of the ball right now, right? She's being the girl boss, but also, I made such a mistake. You should feel bad for me.
But she didn't actually admit that. Like on
she didn't have to.
On camera, she didn't admit any of that.
She didn't have to.
It was just something that
and
you
that's
could
why
see.
I was saying exactly, and that's why I was saying it was important that the documentary was made, because it would ruin her brand if she admitted that. But you can only lie, but your body's going to tell the truth, right? Your emotions, the tears, her shaking.
Yeah. I wouldn't say this is all like an elaborate ruse. I don't think she's even smart enough.
I didn't get that either.
To weave that kind of plot on us. Flooded Timber Farms said, my question for her is, how do you ever come back down to have a normal life and find someone who genuinely loves her despite her past?
A lot of people.
She doesn't believe she will find anyone who loves her. That's the truth. She said that. She implied it, but she almost outright said, like, she doesn't believe anyone is ever going to marry her who actually loves her. And as I said before, she believed that before she started OnlyFans, and this has only accelerated that. She's using it to confirm her own self-hating beliefs.
I think so. I think there's 4 billion men on this planet. I think there's a lot of men that will say your past doesn't matter. But what will matter is if anyone wants to start a family. Like, you can't do this OnlyFans thing forever, or to the point where it's physically harming you that you're preventing yourself from having a future.
Also, we live in a world now that's just more connected via social media. So now it used to be maybe he believes that. He's like, I don't care about your past. And you took some family photos that went into like a box. Now it goes up on Facebook and everybody gets tagged in it. And they got to ask, well, what are they going to say when cousin number 3 says, wow, and then he clicks on her page, he's like, I swear I've seen her before.
Yeah.
Like, the world is just more connected, and thus makes this more tragic.
Mia Khalifa's marriage fell apart after the same thing happened. Her husband told her that he was totally okay with her past. As long as it's in the past, it's fine. He's, you know, secure in his masculinity, whatever. And then over time, it became clear that he wasn't okay with it. I don't think he planned it all along.
I think
right?
There's a huge part.
He thought he could.
He thought he could deal with it, and then he couldn't.
There's a huge part in men's DNA that wants to be monogamous. This push for polygamy and this 304 culture is going against our like basic instincts.
We have a 20 from the Manic Mustache. Late as usual, but apropos to breaking the glass ceiling. Back in my day, you needed a bus ticket to Chatsworth and BF named Ricky to become a porn star. Now all you need is a laptop and some pay pigs. Stay toxic, my friends.
The point I was making, I was talking about this the other day. I said like the stories of how people ended up in that world used to be more interesting, depraved and sad, but more interesting than just like, I got my first student loan bill and I was like, shit, and I turned on my laptop computer camera.
Her own explanation of it was like, oh, well, I was already being a slut because I was at college hooking up with random guys, so I might as well make money off of it. Yeah. And it's like, did anyone present the option of not being a slut for money or not for money?
What?
Like, I mean, I was even
did
shocked.
You think about that?
I was even shocked when she said, I wanted to wait till marriage. I'm like, I didn't even know women of any age over the age of a certain... I didn't imagine non-religious women even feeling that way in the... I guess she's not in America.
I'm sure if they felt it was an option, more women would, regardless of their religious beliefs.
That line of logic doesn't work for anything else. Like, hey, I'm already doing one bad thing, I better double down. I can't think of another example where that makes sense.
I guess just do you feel like the men just have no, like, in today's culture, they just feel like nobody's coming to help a dude through his poor decisions, so they're just like, why should I care if she makes a bunch of really bad self-destructive decisions? Yeah,
but obviously that's an outlook that completely lacks compassion, empathy, for another person.
I think
so. You shouldn't let anybody or any like societal trend make you that callous to other people.
I mean, people feel the same way. They say when they're talking about the CEO getting shot, right? They're like, he was a corporate scumbag. I'm like, he was also a father and a husband, and I don't know whether he was a good husband or a good father, but I err on the side of...
Even if he were a totally awful person, that does not mean that he deserves to die, and that doesn't mean you get to play God and decide when someone
we're
lives
talking
or dies.
about, and I always have to humble myself with this and remind myself that we're talking with people that either had no religious upbringing, so they never learned to have these feelings that we're talking about, like compassion and sympathy. Or there's people that are actively evil. They know all of this and are choosing to do the opposite. You know, you have to realize...
It's a far smaller group.
It is, but these people exist. And there's a bigger number of them than ever.
Like,
you know?
Do I think the guy who runs OnlyFans, the corporation, is evil? Yes. Do I think every 18-year-old girl who saw this on social media and decided to jump on the bandwagon, essentially, is evil? No, I think she's ignorant. Yeah. Yorishima Otaru said, seems like typical self-abuse, self-re-traumatization. I mean, I'm just speculating here, but her behavior seems like so obviously coping with some kind of like childhood trauma. Like there has to be some kind of story behind this that we don't know. Red Snow said...
what an upbeat episode.
Red Snow said, what an upbeat episode.
That's the thing. What an upbeat episode.
What an upbeat episode. This is why we need Space King.
Yeah.
Who's Space King?
Look, that topic was always going to be dark. It was.
There was no getting around it. It just is what it is. Shane H. Wilder said, I feel bad for her. She seems to have resigned herself to being an object instead of a beloved child of God. She is in a pit and needs a ladder. Well, she kind of just feels like she has nothing left to lose. Corey Anderson said, mark my words, Lily ends up self-deleting. Well, that's what she's kind of doing. I think that she's treading that line already, especially if she goes through with the 1,000 men video. That just sounds like medically dangerous. Andimus said the wider discourse has been championing this sort of behavior. It's unflattering, so no one will unpack it beyond her trauma, quote unquote.
Do you feel that that's true?
No one will unpack it into like describing why it's morally wrong, yes. Like, that's just too uncomfortable, and people have too many reservations about feeling accused themselves.
Yeah.
Because porn is part of so many people's lives.
How about just saying it's a bad idea because the room smelled so bad when they were done?
They actually did walk in the room afterwards, and the camera guy
Like, retched.
audibly gagged when he walked in the room. Yeah.
So get a sponsorship from Glade.
Hope you don't watch the documentary now that I've described it. It's
Remember
not.
those nose blind commercials? They just go in that
Not good.
room.
Shane H. Wilder said, no, my theater is really cheap on first-run movies. Matinees are $6, evenings are $7, but concessions are like $50 for a small drink and small popcorn.
See, that's when you
I mean, what if you're a movie theater CEO and you're just walking down the street and people are like, how can you charge those prices when people's homes are being repossessed and everyone's broke?
What you need to
Brett,
do
now that you
at
put it
that
that
point
way-
is just sneak food into the theater like I do.
And no, I was
Exactly.
gonna say microwave popcorn and a microwave, Shane. That's
Sneak both of those.
Bring a
in your
microwave
backpack.
into the theater.
Yes.
Yes.
See, no, actually, no. The problem is that is going to end up being some lame streamer stunt.
It's already happened. Yeah,
Yep.
it's already been done.
Awful.
Pop culture junkie, or you could bring like a George Foreman in there and then do the
A
skillet.
private chef and do
the
Jiffy Pop.
Yeah. Pop culture junkie said, looks like you missed my $20 super chat.
I think I see it
Go.
says, I judge the
What?
deterioration of Western civilization based on the speed at which tragic news occurs and the speed at which we have a mini-series produced. I don't know if that's necessarily fair because the advent of the internet and the speed in which information travels now is very, very different. I don't know if that necessarily correlates to a faster degrading society, or the fact that you have access to information that you just never would have heard about before. For instance, the depressing story of a British porn star just might not have made it to the forefront of the news cycle here in America back in the day. Didn't mean it wasn't happening.
Sorry
true.
about missing your tweets.
Sorry about that.
Sometimes they just don't populate in the spreadsheet that I use for these. We have another 20 from Mr. Moose Knuckles. Some people are mentally stuck at 15 and can't think past their nose, and I'm starting to see a trend in this, unfortunately. Just people being immature.
Well, you know
Yeah.
what? I'm rubber and you're glue, and whatever you say bounces off me and sticks to you.
I forgot that phrase existed until you said it the other day.
At first I was like, oh no, don't tell me this is the first time she's ever heard
No.
that.
I think I'd heard it once or twice. Mondo said, if you don't like what JB represents, then shelf it. Stop using established... Oh, James Bond. Stop using established IPs to manipulate audiences into watching your subversive garbage.
That's what I was wondering. At what point do you continue to resurrect the same piece of art?
Again,
And when do you stop?
look, I don't think it's about resurrecting it. It's about changing it when you do so.
No, but what I'm saying is, if everyone's, not to completely rehash this conversation, but if everyone's saying we need to change it, we need to give it a facelift, maybe we just don't. Maybe we just let the story
Yeah.
I
put it to
want
rest.
you guys, if you enjoy those types of discussion, again, I mentioned this the other day, go check out this guy's channel. He is doing unbelievable work breaking down all of these topics in more detail, meaning that there's way more information in them. And the videos are really, really good. And he has some excellent breakdowns about ideas like postmodernism in Hollywood, DEI, all of that stuff. It's really, really good. I cannot recommend him enough. So you should go check his channel out. It's Greg Owen. It's at Greg Owen 22 on YouTube, and you should go watch it. It's fantastic. His breakdown of the immoral worldview of Leslie Headland and the Acolyte is fantastic.
The moral
The lack of
worldview
morality in the Acolyte.
Oh,
it's
interesting.
amazing. So you should go and watch that.
Drewish AF of God's Army said the people saying Kellen's wrong, deaf weren't army. About the huddling thing.
I don't know. People said I was wrong about a lot today. So.
Yeah, I guess they always
it
do
really
that.
upset your chat today.
Yeah, you have a tendency to do that.
Hey.
Hiroshima Otaru said chicken tikka masala was created in the UK. Oh, that's right.
I
But
didn't know that.
they said it was an Indian dish
Again,
in the article.
sometimes the most vocal people about these issues are the least informed.
Yeah, true.
Cord in the chat says Greg Owen equals beardless Brett. No, he is like 10 gazillion times smarter than me. No.
Beardless
no.
Brett?
He is beardless, but he wears glasses. So.
Shane H. Wilder said there was a parody of James Bond as a fish called James Pond, but seriously, Bond has always been a man's man and cannot be a woman. Also, Sean Connery is best Bond. Don't at me. Would you agree with that?
I'm partial to Pierce Brosnan, but that's the one I grew up with.
There Brett goes.
I did, however,
Not
watch.
dancing.
I did, however, watch The Rock the other day, which people largely believe is a James Bond continuation.
Brett, do you raw dog the crisis parties?
Yes. Yeah.
If you wanted to do that, you would take your headphones off.
Yeah, that's what. It's so much louder without the headphones on.
Stare straight ahead.
The headphones stay on during the crisis party. Red Snow said Cavill as Eisenhorn would be my pick for the story.
I want Henry Cavill. I want Henry Cavill to they should bring back the Kingsman series with Henry Cavill if they're ever going to bring back Kingsman, which I know they're going to.
Are they? I thought the last one didn't do so well.
No, it didn't. But they said they at least want to make one more.
Pat the Plumber said the disrespect to my $20 super chat is real.
What? Did we not read it? Did we miss one? Did we miss another one?
I thought we just roasted it.
Is that what it was that we just... you had to look up movie times in the newspaper and have a backup if it was sold out.
Yeah.
Oh.
Sorry about that.
Sorry about that.
I can still roast it if you'd like. That was a dumb
or was he talking about...
I think it was that one.
Okay.
Omega Red fan said Q's not gonna like this. Car blows up. What?
James Bond.
No Control said adrenaline is a hell of a drug.
I love...
Truly.
What was it? Desmond Llewellyn, who played Q, and then they kept he would just go from Bond to Bond to Bond because even after they changed Bond, he would still be Q in the franchise all the way up until he died, and then he was replaced.
But each James Bond exists in its own James Bond universe.
No, it's never.
Right?
It's no, because for instance, then when they went up from Pierce Brosnan to Daniel Craig, Q was the same up until...
But they just don't address that?
Yeah, until Skyfall.
Okay.
Up until after Skyfall.
Mondo said...
Wait, did I say Q? I meant M. M is the same.
Oh, okay.
M is the same, not Q.
Mondo said, looks like we're going after hours, gang. Let's go.
Well, we're almost finishing up here.
The Rumbling said gambling is for males as OF is for females.
Look, there's also the argument to be made now that, look, they love talking about sports betting as if it's just this easy, great, awesome, totally not dangerous thing to do in your free time. Gambling addiction is a very real thing.
The Shane Gillis bit was amazing.
What's more likely to make you a
sports
millionaire?
betting.
A gambling addiction or OnlyFans?
Are you a man or a woman?
OnlyFans.
You think?
Yes.
Are you a man
There
or a
are so
woman?
few women who actually end up getting
I
to
think
that
sports
top
betting.
percentage, though.
You think sports betting?
If you
might actually.
if you devote your whole life to learning, that's what Moneyball is about. Is this guy broke it all down into analytics and data?
I mean, yeah, but that's like a movie about a dude who that was about sabermetrics, right? So
But what I'm saying is, if you devote your whole life, there's always going to be one side that wins. There's no guarantee winning if you become an OnlyFans person, right? But on a sports betting, one side has to win.
Yeah.
One team,
is it proven
one player.
that gambling is more male oriented than female? I have no
gotta
idea.
I
be.
bet it is.
I imagine.
Yes.
Yeah.
The risk-taking behavior. Yeah. Nate said...
We say, as we just did this topic about a girl who slept with 100 dudes in 24 hours, totally not risk-taking behavior
we're talking
at all.
about bell curves and averages.
Okay.
Did you have breakfast this morning? Nate said she wants to be a tramp and then for you to say it's not her fault, it's her trauma. Well, I don't think I said that. Or did any of us say that? It is her fault.
I
It's
might have
just
said she's finally realizing
that
what
there are other people at fault than just her.
I might have said that she's in the documentary after the 100 Men, she's kind of realizing the oh shit moment.
Mm-hmm. Well, the trauma...
I don't think anyone's kind of defending
The
it.
trauma is the result of what she did, not the reason that she did it.
I agree.
So, yeah, I don't think we were saying that. Red Snow said, did anyone watch Elevation and how mid was it?
I did not.
I haven't even heard
What
of
is that?
I don't know. 200 Watt Studio said it looked like an exploded glazed donut
gross.
factory.
Gross, dude.
Krispy Kreme.
Gross, Brett.
Okay. Do we have any more?
Shane H. Weiler says, I didn't grow up with Connery. I just really enjoyed his portrayal. It sucks he retired from acting after League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Yes.
Are we all caught up now?
We are all caught up, guys.
Okay.
All right. Before we go, would you hit the like button on this video, please, and subscribe to this channel if you have not subscribed here yet. Alrighty, guys. Thank you so much for that. And Kellen, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, guys.
Tell them where they can find you.
You guys can follow me at KellenPDL on X. I repost a lot of the Rizzler. So
Of
if
course.
you want to stay up to
Who
date
wouldn't?
on the Rizzler and other things, I was going to say Culture War, but just Timcast in general, you can follow me there. But thanks for having me on, guys, and sorry I made chat so angry.
That happens.
But
Mary.
we would prefer it that way. It makes things interesting. It makes things spicy. You can send me validation on Instagram at Mary Archived, or you can send me hate on X. That is also Mary Archived.
All right, guys, if you want to follow me, Instagram and Twix at Brett Dasovic on both of those platforms. We are live 5 days a week, Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern, which is noon Pacific. We are on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, and Spotify. If you would prefer to listen rather than watch, you can rate and review on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, and that helps the show greatly. And if you want to follow the show on social media, Twix at popculture_show, Facebook, and not TikTok, because we were banned on TikTok,
No way.
at Pop Culture Crisis, and on Instagram at Pop Culture Crisis Pod. Guys, we will be back tomorrow. We'll see you then.
Merry Christmas.
Bye.
Later, guys.